a 3 to 4 state area taking carcass data. And then in 2011, a friend came to me. This was our first stint in Laclede/Wright County. A friend came to me and asked if I would be willing to come and help him build a co-op herd where we raised embryo transfer calves for some of the leading seed stock operations across the country. And so we packed up bags and dove off, and it really freaked my father-in-law out. I don't know if many of you know Jim Bellis. He's my father-in-law, and he was deathly afraid of us starting this business. We were all 20-somethings, sub 25, so 20-somethings starting this. And then that's what really got us going, and we improved the cow herd to almost 750 head of cows, raising ET calves year-round, and then ended up being a donor facility. Then the next step, kind of got tired of working really hard, and Missouri Cattlemen's came to call and asked if I could head up their membership and event services. Now, that's a very short title, and there was a lot that I had to do under that, and so it was a skeleton crew at the association, and so I learned a lot on how to work with grassroots organizations, setting up events, getting back on my feet on speaking in front of people. A really funny story. My first time talking to a group of people at a at a county cattlemen's meeting. You know the TV notion of a Walt Disney moment where there's just no sound? Well, halfway through my talk, because two of the people that talked before me took everything that I was going to talk about, and I got halfway through what was left over to say, and then just blanked and nothing came out of my mouth, and then I just closed my talk then and sat down shamelessly. And so it had been a while since I had to talk in front of people, because all I was doing was chasing cattle for 4 years. And so once we got done with Missouri Cattlemen's, we desired to come back to Laclede County and to the family farm and to help and expand out there. And so I came back, the second feed truck office was coming back to the Durham company and handling sales for them. And I spent 3.5 years there doing sales with the Durham company, and the Durham company does electrical distribution enclosures for electric co-ops and investor-owned utilities. And so I had 8 states in the southeast region of the U.S. I knew a little bit about electricity. Electric fence, don't touch it when it's plugged in. 2, is anybody from the electric co-op in here? Before I say this, okay. Before those nice transfer switches, whenever there was an ice storm, you learned how to wire a generator up so you had power so the water kept running. So that was my extent of electricity, and then handled sales for them. And then entrepreneurship came calling again. We had started working a little bit on Ag Butler as well as some of our own family operation stuff, and that's what brought us to this. So I don't know how many of you have an open cab tractor or get the opportunity to get inside the cab whenever it's nice and hot, but I don't know about you, but being in a cab or on a seat of a tractor, that's probably the best thinking area for me, because you're not bothered, and you just have a lot of time to think, because once the local radio station, sorry if you're at a radio station, but when it starts going on repeat, then you have to figure out something else to do. So, came back to the family farm in 2017, and we had a custom hay baler that was doing our hay work, and I found myself bush hogging 80 acres of a hay field just because they didn't get to it in time. And as I'm going back and forth, I'm thinking, why am I spending 2 days bush hogging overgrown hay fields just to make it look nice for the winter and going on? At that same time, podcasts started becoming a new thing, and now podcasts are everywhere and people are listening to podcasts more and more. So the one that really got me really thinking was called Startup, and it's basically an audible video, or not a video, but it's an audible story of how that individual that came from this company, NPR is National Public Radio, but he came from this company and knew that there was a need for a catalog of podcasts and to develop for different companies or unique content to be consumed. And so this was this individual and his friend and his wife, and they would record each other having conversations about what they were going to do and some of the struggles that they were having. And so while I'm going back and forth in the field and traveling the southeast country, I was listening to a lot of this and how I built this. How many has listened to either one of these? Oh, you're in for a treat. Download those are great. So how I built this, one of my favorite one is Boom Chicka Pop. If everybody's listened to that one, that is a crazy one. So Boom Chicka Pop is the kettle popcorn in the bag. And I'm sure some of you have got in the mail about we can give you $250,000 in business line of credit if you just call this number now. The Boom Chicka Pop people did. They got money wired to them that allowed them to fulfill their order for Minnesota Vikings, and then the rest is history. So, not all of them are a scam. I've been very tempted, but I haven't gone off into it yet. So, the origin of the story is, yes, Ag Butler kind of started putting pieces together of what I was picking up on, the good and the bad on how I built this, and just the storyline of startup and how they came to a company and were building unique podcasts for different companies. Along with early start of Ag Butler, we relayed it to people as Uber for ag labor, and that resonated with a lot of people. But then once we started getting into pitch competitions and talking to people about raising money, they say just talk about ride sharing because Uber burns through a lot of dollars and that's not good for you. I go, got it, wrote it down. So I talk about all this backstory just to say all those different experiences from college, early adulthood to going to Columbia and then coming back to Lebanon and doing sales, essentially outside of agriculture, kind of put all those pieces into preparing us for the journey of taking an idea that I have a lot of ideas, but this was the first one that we kind of took outside of the kitchen table. And if my wife Jamie was here, which John knows, she would probably be rolling her eyes when I said I have a lot of ideas. But Ag Butler was the first one that we really took seriously and moved forward with. So I say all that, and you might say, so you have this business with thousands of users and cover the country, and it works great. And so the platform is easy to use. It has two-sided laborers, all the different industries in agriculture, and the laborers can see different jobs that are in certain areas, and then they can preview jobs that are posted to make sure it hits their experience level. And then also on the employer side, the employers can see what jobs they've posted, they can preview the laborers that are available and see their profiles to see if it makes their experience. One of the cool things that we definitely wanted to do when we were building this with ourselves and other producers in production livestock and crops was having that dollar amount that people are willing to work for at a per hour rate or per day rate, and then the employer can also put that on there. So the awkwardness of exchange of dollars when the job is done, I'm going to go ahead and raise my hand because I've been a part of this, and if you have too, it's fine. Both of us, we've all done it. But once the job's done, you say thank you for your work. What do I owe you? Oh, whatever you think I'm worth. Oh no, you tell me what you're worth. And then a folded either wad of cash or a folded check is passed and nothing's talking about it again. However, how many? Come on, I know. There's enough ag people in here, you've all done it. So, all that being said, you might think, well, that's an easy run. And I started to like this because that's how I built this is say all this grandiose stuff, and then you get into the real nitty gritty. So, like I mentioned in kind of the prelim, entrepreneurial journey is not a straight A to B journey. It kind of goes all over the place. So if any of you ride horses, you know, stay centered so you don't get bucked off. Entrepreneurship journey is much like that. So we developed our LLC in 2018, and I am not a coder at all. I know enough to be dangerous with a computer, but I do not know how to do coding. And so our group, we knew how to build a brand, we knew how to market, we knew how to tell a story, we knew economics, and we had a huge network of people that were in production agriculture, in those organizations, in economics, to where they could help build a solid foundation for our company. So what we did in the start of 2018, we started building that company without the technology. And one of the cool things that we started off with, you know, one was trying to introduce people a new way to hire somebody onto your place without even knowing them, because the status quo was you found a neighbor or a cousin or a friend within your close radius, maybe 5 to 10 miles, and then ultimately if somebody wasn't available, you just found a warm body, and sometimes stuff got tore up, or then it just ended in a bad day. I've been there. I've not been the causer of that anytime. So it was a whole part of educating people on how this new wave of trying to connect people and really rebuild and revitalize rural communities, because there are people in those communities that can do the work, but it was the best, how do we reach those people and connect the producer and the available person that's there. The caveat to this was trying to tell people that, like myself, that I'm on the farm every day. There's one day that I'm looking to hire 1 or 2 people, but if we're not busy, I can put my hat in and say, hey, I can go pick up some extra work here, there, and yonder to bring in some extra income. So there was a cool 2-door entry to our platform. So we built the narrative, and then we were able to build a demo, very clunky demo. I'm not even going to show it to you because it was rough, but in all saying that, whenever you are working towards something that you're really wanting to get to, if you're a Ford Pinto enthusiast, I'm sorry for saying this, but we always called our demo the Ford Pinto. It had 3 buttons that worked, and that's how we applied to the Farm Bureau Ag Innovation Challenge. Now, I'm going to plug this 2 or 3 times because that application is running now, and there's been 3 to 4 Missouri teams or Missouri companies that have made it to the top 10 semifinalists for the last 4 years. We were one of the first. Just shameless plug, but I'll keep plugging it. So we utilize that for our application. That's what we showed those judges on what we were building. And then we worked towards the Innovation Challenge at our Iowa Power Farming Show, and then worked towards that Mazda grant. The really cool thing that we were able to do right here is we built our own survey and sent it out close friends and family, but then we had them send it out to another 10 to 15 people. So we had about 250 individuals from crops, livestock, specialty crops, transportation, that we asked a bunch of questions to really fine-tune and build that platform out. And all, you know, discussing all of that, you know, it says 2019, and so that was whenever it was the fun ride, because everything was going our way, everything was great, and so we presented in February of 2020 at Ag Innovation Challenge and at Iowa Power Farm Show, and then we had our follow-up at Mazda grant. So I don't know if you recall, but February 2020 was all right. and then everything shut down, and so, you know, you're building a platform you're hiring somebody that you probably don't know or might know to your farm during we didn't know what was going on. And so all that being said, I'm going to pause there because whenever you dive off into this, especially doing pitch competitions or building a company, trying to get grant dollars or trying to get investment dollars, you have to keep a glass half full or glass overflowing mentality, because there's a lot of no's that'll be coming at you. A lot of no's. And there's times that you're just like, am I doing the right thing or should I just stop? However, we had a few yeses, which I will plug this group till I'm blue in the face, because if it wasn't for them in my local bank, and some of you might think your local bank, and I was like, well, technically they were my first investor. So my hometown local bank that I started getting my 4-H and FFA projects through were the first investor. They gave me a line of credit to build my clunky demo, and then they were able to expand that line of credit for us to get to where we are today, along with other funds. And so some of the first yeses, the Ag Innovation Challenge, the Iowa Power Farm Show, and then Pure Pitch Rally was a group based out of Kansas City. And we learned about that because of our network of people that we were introduced to, and they said, hey, have you ever heard about Pure Pitch Rally? It's like, no. And so I looked back at their past competitors, and essentially what Pure Pitch Rally is, there's a room full of 100 people. They each have a $1,000 check, and if you persuade them that you have a good idea, they'll present you that $1,000 check, non-dilutive, and you go and keep building. But it helps you build out your network for maybe future help on other projects or to build out your company. And it was at Pure Pitch Rally that I ran into an individual that asked if I knew anything about eFactory, which eFactory is based at Missouri State, and we'll get to that group here in a second. But I will tell you, there's going to be a lot of no's. A lot of no's. Is there? I forgot to ask. Is anybody working on starting a new company? Growing. Okay. Do not leave here defeated. I promise you, there's a silver lining to all this. Now, there are times that you'll look like this, and I throw this picture up because there's all this stuff going on, okay? And what I want to stress here is, if you have a plan built out and it seems very, if you seem very confident in going ahead with this plan, stick with your plan. There will be shiny objects left and right. I promise you, because I will share two stories. One story was does anybody know Working Ranch magazine? Nobody? Okay. So Working Ranch magazine is a national publication that covers the U.S. and they have a large amount of followers on their social, but I think they send out 55,000 publications. It's mostly focused on working ranches, horses, big country stuff, but they've moved more in. And then they were going to start a Working Ranch Expo in parallel with the National Finals Rodeo. Okay? It was a great event. There was a lot of people there. The only problem was, one, it was in Las Vegas, and it cost a lot to get to Las Vegas and set up a booth and do all that. And two, the two events, so the National Finals Rodeo Cowboy Christmas, have you guys heard of that? That's a big, huge, basically anything that you can think of that you want to buy that has anything to do with cowboy stuff, it's there. We were across the parking lot, and so we were fairly separate, and people couldn't see that this expo was going on as well. So it was a little trial and error. You figure that out when you're an entrepreneur, that you try to get as much exposure as you can, but sometimes it's not a big a return on investment. However, the caveat to that was they broadcasted all the learning sessions, and so we were able to do a speech on Ag Butler, and so we were able to get out in front of some of their audience. But there's some of those, that was not in our roadmap at all, to start doing those big of events, especially a first year event, and took a bet on it, and it worked out a little bit, but we could have utilized that marketing dollars for other stuff. One of the other things that I will say, as you're building a company and have funds, especially revenue, we also do this in the agricultural space, having crop or livestock or specialty crop production. We do not compensate our own time to the extent that we need to. So we undervalue ourselves because we're going to put it back in the company. We're going to put it back in the company. But you have to remind yourself, you are part of the company and you're the one that runs it. So don't be a martyr and underpay yourself. Be sure you take care of yourself, because if you're not there, then the company's not there. So that's a big one. I'm horrible about it too, because I run ragged all the time, especially on the cattle side. But especially if you're up 10:30 at night moving cows or something like that, pay yourself a little overtime or a little downtime the next day. It's fine if it's sunny outside. If you need to do computer work inside, it'll be okay. It'll be okay. So, talking about staying on your plan. Our plan from the beginning was to utilize the agriculture network, and that's with all the grassroots organizations, associations, youth organizations, because for what we were doing, that was going to be the pipeline for reoccurring ag labor. And in FFA 4-H, you have a lot of enthusiastic young agriculturists that want to be a part of ag. Now, the other soapbox that I will say is I'm a part of that generation that was discouraged from coming back to my community to be a part of our agriculture operation, but I was encouraged to leave it. And so now, that was 20 plus years ago, and there was an ag labor problem then, and it's even a bigger problem now, because the group that was always the most reliable ag labor group is my father's generation, the baby boomers. And the number of them are retiring and are not able to do the work or are leaving us continuously day to day. So we were trying to find the way to be able to backfill those openings. And FFA and 4-H is a great pipeline for that. It's not child labor. Some people call it child labor. It's just getting them introduced and excited about what possibilities that are out there in agriculture. And today, the possibilities for agriculture are huge. It's not just cows and plows like people thought it was 20 plus years ago. I mean, you have technology, you have food, you have a long list of everything that's available, and then there's young people probably in this community that are interested to bring them in. Again, Mazda. Also, the other groups that help us there. Then we worked with industry partners, because our platform allowed for advertising, and we wanted to bring value to our users to where they could have access to other industry partners. So Hammond's Black Walnuts, we try to work with them a couple of years to streamline their request during black walnut harvest season, because they'd have people calling in to the office asking where they could pick up black walnuts, or if they knew people that would come and pick up black walnuts. And so we did a couple of campaigns to try to streamline it through the Ag Butler platform. We also worked with S&H Farm Supply. I think they're basically more on the west side of the state. And then Genesis is one of our companies that, our second company that opened up another revenue stream for us. We have a couple of companies that we've been working with recently, because we have the branding and marketing and the network available to our team. We've been able to help some of these companies build their brand and their network, because they had the technology, they just didn't know how to market or brand it. And so we've been working with a few of those companies, and Genesis is getting ready to commercially launch their platform, as well as raising a seed round right now. So that's pretty cool. But all that to say, we found another way to bring in revenue and value to our platform. And so I am kind of tongue-in-cheek saying stay on your roadmap, but some of these kind of shiny objects are actually return on investment. You just have to figure out which ones are really good. And going back to 2020, as we were building out this platform and talking to people and trying, we should never even tried to raise any more money in 2020 because that was a lost cause. But our joke during 2020 and half of 21 was our business plan was all written in pencil, because a lot of times we'd have to erase a bunch and rewrite something else because the industry was changing multiple times. The other thing that gained us a lot of traction was our ambassador program, and working with state colleges and universities, junior colleges, tech schools. Missouri has 23, I think, institutions around the state, and most all of them are set where there's a pretty decent amount of agriculture around them. And so that gives a lot of students an opportunity not only to do their in-class lab work, but then they can get out and get real-world experience and also build their network and resume to help them in their professional careers. The real cool thing that we had pulled out of this was we had a bunch of students that were first generational or non-traditional students that don't have a family operation to go back to. They might go to some of their friends' operations during break, but this gave them even more expansive experience that they were needing to progress in their studies. As we continued on, we utilized podcasts just because about 2020 to 2021, there was very few ag dedicated podcasts. And there was 1 to 2 that were good, and then there was a number of them that just weren't that great. But then more and more people started coming into that, and there was a lot of good content that were specific to certain parts of the industry that we were either guest on or sponsors of, that gave us a broader network to get out and tell people what we were doing. And that was the really rise that we saw in users coming on between start of 21 to the start of 22. We grew, I think Heather said that we had like 335 at the end of 20, and by the end of 21 we were at 1,800 users. So we really ramped up the amount of users that we had. And then social media, love it or hate it, it's the best and cheapest way to market a product, service, technology, anything. And the nice thing about a couple of these, you can be very strategic about the demographic that you want to touch, and you can monitor your budget on how much you want to spend on a promotional kickout, and it's very intuitive, and those tools are really hard to come by, especially on a startup budget. The other one that I'd like to talk about that I don't have up here is Google Ads. How many of you use Google Ads to promote? Okay, well, here's another soapbox. So, Google Ads, you can set up multiple campaigns focused on different parts of your company. The other part of it, you can set up state or multiple states, and then you throw in different keywords. Typically it's about 10 keywords that people would search in and around what your product would do, and then you can gauge it by how much you want to spend per month. And then that gives you the amount of impressions that you want to kick out. And then that allowed us to get more recognition as people search for labor or part-time work or livestock, etc. And we've used that with a couple of the other companies that we've been building their brands with and using Google Ads to really get an online presence, because when we first started, there was another A.G. Butler. A.G. Butler was a mining company in Africa. And so when people would search Ag Butler, that would be the first thing that would come up, and we were like maybe 6th or 7th on the first page, and now Ag Butler, the Ag Labor platform, is on basically the whole first page. So especially if you have a name or name of a company that is similar to something else in a different industry, that gives you more brand recognition. So Google Ads is really economic for building a marketing campaign. Now, I show this picture because as you're building your company, there will be times that you feel like you're the only one and it's a lonely island. And I can attest that is the case, because only you, and if it's a husband and wife duo or 2 people, there's not going to be anybody else that is going to work as hard or spend as much time as you are on your business or your idea. It's just not going to happen, because and once you realize that, it's a lot easier to work through, because you can delegate other tasks if you have a team or bring on a team. But just know that there's going to be a lot of times that you feel like you're by yourself because nobody's doing as much as you're doing. And I mean, and that's the same case if you're just running a cattle operation like what we do, or a specialty crop operation, what have you. There will be times that you're on a lonely island. However, there's a way to build a peer network that those same people have those passions for their businesses, so you can get a peer network. And if you want to reach out, I have a bunch of peers that we just, as the sole idea person, bounce ideas off each other, and then you can kind of share stories and ideas and pitfalls. That way it doesn't bring the rest of the team down, because you're supposed to be the leader that is not fazed by anything, but you have your peer group to lean on. And so how do you build those peer groups? I mean, you've already started because you're at this event to build out that network. And then you have other groups like eFactory. So I mentioned eFactory. I just got introduced to them at that peer pitch rally in the fall of 2020. Yes. And then I went through their cohort through the fall of 21 and was able to expand my network in and around Springfield, Missouri. And that was a great event, and I still work with them on a few events to date, and they've been great to bounce ideas off of, especially with their mentor group, much like what OzSBI has, especially their partners Codify, which developed Innovate Southwest Mo. How many of you have heard about this initiative, Innovate Southwest Mo? Okay. I encourage all of you to read up on it, because it's a initiative for, it's 47 counties? Yeah, 47 counties of southern Missouri to all work together, from Codify that's in Cape Girardeau, to OzSBI, to eFactory, all the way over to Joplin, to where it's a huge network. It's not just one group tucked off by themselves. And I say that because whenever we started in this journey back in 2017, we were finding our way by ourselves, quite frankly. We were just taking a machete and knocking down the brush just to see if it worked. And so, and then Mo SourceLink, for ones that are not strictly agriculture, they have other programs that can help build your business and everything like that. But all that being said, that's how you build a peer network whenever you do that. I know I said earlier you're going to hear a lot of no's and a few yeses. And it does take time to say yes to other things that you might not want to do, but there are events that you have to say yes to. Just because it gets you more exposure of what you're building, especially if it's tied into the industry that you're in. Just like FFA and 4-H, I was able to attend AFA group that is a bunch of business professional ag students that are learning their way through a bunch of conferences and conventions once they came back online in 2021. That was our first time out in a year and a half, and so we had to rely on digital education through 2020 through most of 21. And then just recently, because of our network that we have, I was able to go to Washington, D.C. with AgriPulse newsmakers, and their whole program on food and ag policy was revitalizing the rural economy. And so they highlighted 4 entrepreneurs that were actually in rural America and share our stories and talk about some of the hurdles that we had. So we talked about investments and capital available to people in rural communities, etc. And so that was a great opportunity. So also, whenever you hear so many no's, you also need to be able to say yes to some of the events that is at your fingertips to get on the agenda and spread what you're working on. So I'm going to finish up with this. This was 2.5 years ago. I think I mentioned my wife and sister-in-law has a building downtown, much like your guys' downtown street. We converted it into an event space, and it has offices upstairs. 2.5 years ago, I moved back into the entrepreneurship world. I have my little corner on the other side of the building, so I get stuff done. I'm rarely there. Shocking, because I'm here. But that's kind of my home away from home, to get work done and work with all these businesses and be a part of the entrepreneurship journey. And I show this because that was our start. And the biggest thing that you have to realize, I'm sure some of you that are starting businesses, you probably have another full-time job or something else that takes up most of your time, and this is a side project that you're trying to decide, can I take it full-time? How much time do I need to apply to it? Well, at some point you're going to either need to dive into the pool with all of us or still just kind of skirt along, because you're not going to be able to really flourish your company until you put all your time and effort into it. And then the other thing that you have to realize too is at some point you're going to have to decide, how far will you go with this business or idea. Now, I joke, I don't know how many of you are Pirates of the Caribbean fans, my girls love it. I joke that I'm so far into this that I'll ride it to the depths with the Kraken. So if that tells you how entrenched I'm in on what we're working on, then that's where we're at. So with that, we are enabling farm productivity one click at a time. This QR code will take you to our website where you can download the app in either app store. We have it in Apple and Google Play, and then we also have the web-based platform. And we did that on purpose because we knew there was enough people in agriculture that still finish out their day on a desktop to see the grain, livestock, or weather reports, and do not utilize a smartphone. So we wanted to make sure that we encompass all of agriculture. So with that, I will stop and let you ask questions, because I didn't stop talking for a long while. So I'll open it up to you guys. Yeah?
Hey, so much. Great to meet you, Kevin. I'm Brandon. I'm with Arkansas Cooperative Extension, and I work on our economic and workforce development side, so not necessarily ag specific, although with the Cooperative Extension. But my question is really around workforce pathways. It seems like there's a lot of opportunity to connect to state partners and get this. I mean, this essentially is, you're directing labor where it needs to be. So are you working with any state partners, and as you kind of expand to look at how can we be at, like, Office of Skill Development or Department of Workforce in Missouri or any of the other states you're in?
Yeah, so early on we talked with the Department of Workforce Development, and I had shared with them our roadmap was to throw in an educational part to Ag Butler, so like an extended learning to achieve certificates for herbicide, pesticide, applications, et cetera, et cetera. And whenever we get to that point to be able to build in the whole educational standpoint, then they said that we could work with them as far as getting some funding from their group to be able to expand that out. But until we were ready to launch the educational part, since it was just labor, we couldn't do that. But yes, we've been working with a bunch of different state groups that just have to hit certain benchmarks to get there.
Go ahead.
So I was just going to ask, when you were starting to do your customer discovery and going out and talking to potential users and stuff, what was the biggest surprise or pivot that you had to do when you actually, got your plan and got it out in front of people?
The biggest surprise is, well, we thought we had a really great plan of going to conferences and conventions, and we had what we did was we had a deal called first service sign up. And that gave us a way to get a group right here, where is it at? First service. So what we did was when we were out talking to people, we had a Google form that they filled out and gave us some demographics and particulars about what they did. And then that gave us a first user group that we kept in a loop on our newsletter on how the platform was progressing. And in that newsletter, we threw back in some questions about, if we did this on the platform, how do you think? And people would feedback. And so it kind of gave that first service group an inside track of how we were progressing and building. And so we had those early adopters right off the get-go. That was our first 300. And when we had that set up, that was all great until then we couldn't have in-person stuff. So the biggest surprise was pivoting to discussing a new technology to the seasoned producers in person, but then when we had to switch it all digital, that was the biggest surprise, because we really had to fine-tune doing video tutorials and online kind of walkthroughs or Facebook Lives to show people how to navigate through the platform on a digital level, which was even a bigger hurdle to jump over on kind of our target demographic being on the top end of that producer spectrum.
You just answered 2 of my questions.
What's your third?
No, thank you.
Okay.
We're good. We're good.
Oh.
So I raise pigs on pasture, and I have a hard time to find the time to do the marketing and build the customer base. And I just wonder how you find the time or the focus to build a company, and at the same time you're talking about farming and different kinds of cattle and all that. I just
Well, you don't get a whole lot of sleep. And early on, so whenever we were really building this out, I was doing sales, and I was also on the road for 2 weeks out of the month away from home. A lot of the work that I did was whenever the girls went to sleep, and so I was doing a lot of moonlighting on the side project. And we also had our team, which I didn't throw up a team slide, so I apologize, but they're on our website. If you scan the QR code, I'll get back to it. We were able to divide and conquer and put out those campaigns, and that's another great thing about the Google ads and social media. You can take a day and start scheduling out marketing releases to where you don't have to realize, oh, I haven't posted anything in like 3 weeks. I'm bad about that too. But you're able to schedule those out, especially with the Google ads as well. And so there'd be days that we would just set up to where we would knock out a bunch of promos and schedule them so they were getting released in a timely fashion.
Do you see in the future expanding outside agriculture to the trades? For example, every crew that worked on my house whined extensively about the inability to find help.
Well, glad you brought that up, because so whenever we were with eFactory, we did a pilot program with a packaging company, and they were looking at exploring flex time in a manufacturing setting. We have a manufacturing industry on our platform because a lot of manufacturing happens in rural communities. I'm sure, I know here has quite a few manufacturing as well as Lebanon has 6 to 14 manufacturing from large to small. So that was one that we have opened up into, and then also we were going to some point launch one called Community, and it basically encompasses banking, real estate, retail, restaurant, etc. Because when we've seen so many people come back to their communities or to a rural community, because so many people with now the availability to do remote work can come in and then really recruit and bring back talent to those communities that have had experience outside, to where quite frankly some of the mainstream job boards are algorithm driven. Ours is user based driven, to where if it's a low population or low demand, that algorithm doesn't really get in front of enough people for rural jobs. And so yes, in a roundabout way, yes, we have that in the roadmap, but we want to make sure the ag side of it is locked down. But there's also that community aspect that also runs the rest of the rural communities that need positions filled. Yes?
The positions that you're filling, like if a farm just needs something for a few days or a few weeks, does that meet that need?
Yes. So we actually started out as a part-time day help platform, where if you needed, say you needed me tomorrow to run a set of cattle through, then I'd show up for the one day. Or if you need somebody to watch over your farm while you guys, take a break or go on vacation. I know all of us are horrible about doing that. I'm one too. To where you can set that time frame up and when the projects needed to be done, and then you can give the description. We started out as part-time, and then as we continue to grow and get more exposure across the country, we started having people coming to us and ask if they could post full-time positions, because that's all we promoted was part-time work. And so people started adding full-time positions like ranch managers or farm managers. We even started getting some people to post internships to gain another portion, which that is another roadmap stop to get to help facilitate internships, because we have such a massive group of people in production agriculture that students can probably get even more experience through real hands-on internships. But yes, I mean, it's all based off of the user and how much they put in of that job description and detail and timing.
And are they local, possibly? They could be local and possibly they could be from another area.
Yes, so we've also started working with some of the U.S. Custom Harvesters group that have the traveling harvesters that start in Texas and work all the way up to Canada, because they lose some of their people as they go up through the wheat belt. And the cool thing about our platform is, as you have that job posted, you can edit the location of where the job's at, so it populates in front of the people with a certain radius around that. So we're going to start trying to work with U.S. Custom Harvesters to work with that. And I only got that introduction because I said yes to the DC thing. I didn't have time to go do DC, but then I ran into that group and we talked with them, and I asked if they had anybody, their crew short, and they're like, oh, we're never short on our crew. And they were joking, obviously, but and that way they can pick up people that are in their off season doing production crops, but during wheat harvest you could pick up a grain cart driver or truck driver to storage, or another combine operator. Yes?
So I almost have the reverse of your harvesters. We harvest aquatic weeds for fertilizer, and biogas, and stuff. So ours would be more of a sort of advertising in front of the season. And for us, it wouldn't be so much looking for employees, but maybe looking for, it was like, oh yeah, I got a bunch of that stuff growing and I need some fertilizer. So can you flip is it possible to flip the paradigm yet, or like to advertise instead of recruit? Because that's
Just-
gonna use
Yeah,
pretty
that is
tight
in the roadmap.
marketing.
Now, I didn't say this in the talk, but our roadmap, when we built it, it had, you know, a 1, 3-year, 5-year, 10-year, big grandiose goal. And so, yes, I mean, what we want to work towards is much like a agricultural digital community like LinkedIn, but it's all encompassing ag, where you can advertise and promote. And once we get to that next level, so right now it is just job posting, and then it's all free, and you don't have to pay anything unless you connect with me for a job, which is $20 to connect and get that contact information. Where we see ourselves going is more of a membership model with tools and features, to where if you're at what we call the black tie level, we're keeping in touch with the butler, black tie level, then you get more tools and features to work with, and then the valet level is even more, to where we have that more of that advertising spot. Now, until we get that, we do have the advertising banners, to where if you have a connection point that you need those people to go to, we can insert that banner into our platform, and people can click on that banner and go to it, or we can advertise it through our newsletter as far as new technologies or new things that are going. We've done that to where we can provide more value to our users, and then they can get access to the new technologies or new services or products that are coming out for them. Any other questions? Yes.
One last, why Charlaine's?
Well, now I have to ask, what do you raise first?
Angus.
Oh, okay. Well, we fix all Angus's problems. So,
But they're right next to Wes and Charlaine's home headquarters.
I know. That's just rough. So the reason for Charlay, that would have been my brother's 4-H project in 1988. One of my father's bank customers had Charlay, and it was Todd Charlay. And so we started off with a cow and a calf and rented a bull from him, and then we got as big as 60 to 80 head. And that's a huge feat, because where I grew up, we're right in the middle of a very high yielding crop country that's on a plateau, and so we weren't able to convert any more crop ground into grass ground, or people thought we were crazy. So on our little landlocked piece of grass that we had, we got up to 60 to 80 head. And then I met my wife because I traveled all over the place clipping cattle. Her dad hired me to come and get their cattle ready for Ozark Empire Fair and State Fair, and then they stopped paying me.
No, they're pretty, they're just mean.
Oh no, they're not mean anymore. They're not mean anymore. But so that it.
Any other questions? Let's give Kevin a
Oh.
round of applause.
Just a comment. So I teach agriculture here at Missouri State. I know your father-in-law very well, and he's a very well-respected person. And I can see your platform as a good way to maybe find some better internships for our students.
Yeah,
So
I
I
mean,
think that could be a real good link.
that's my second passion project, because we've hired enough college students that go show cattle with us or help doing our day-to-day work. And that's one of the things that, well, again, 20 years ago when I was in college, I mean, it wasn't hard to find internships. You had to kind of turn them down. But now with the bulk of what we have people asking for if we have people available. That's why we started cultivating students in that ambassador program and get exposure on those campuses, so we have a broad variety of people available across the country.
Just a comment. So this year, I only had 4 students out of 40 that came from real agricultural enterprises. I took over 20 students out to my horse arena and let them drive a tractor for the first time and learn how to raise a bucket and lower, you know, an implement or something, so
And,
this could be a really good hookup.
well, yes, and expanding
Are they
on,
gonna wanna hire those kind of people? That's what I want.
well, it's gonna be to the point where they're gonna
They
need
need
to.
a body. They need a body.
But going back to your comment of taking kids out and teach them how to do a tractor, going back to that education point, what we really want to do is move even further on the education side and have ag butler days to where in the off season team up with either colleges, universities, extensions, or farming operations that are willing to teach individuals, be it students or adults, on different tractors, implements, combines, what have you, or just running cattle through, and then they get those certifications, say, I have X number of hours running this type of tractor, because case in point, and he's fine because he's my older brother and I still make fun of him because he lived in the city for long enough, but he grew up driving a 986 International that I learned how to drive. You know, those things are hard clutching, hard moving. My daughter learned how to drive a tractor with an electric shifter, Massey Ferguson. And so if I throw him in that Massey, he would be like, okay, what do I do first? Now, if I threw him in that 986, he would just, and your knee would be sore by the end of the day. But all that being said, that's where we're looking to go to build out those partnerships and have those deals.
To go back even further, when we graduated from 3rd grade, we all got our 8 and Ford.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that was our graduation gift.
That's nice.
That is ancient, right?
We got one sitting in the.
Yeah, they're worth money
Yeah.
now.
Any other questions for Kevin? No, let's give him a round of applause. Kevin is going to be around. You know, we're going to take a break in just a minute. But, you know, what I really like is it's not just about employees that he's trying to source for farms. What I'm sensing is there's really a sense of community here. And I find it funny is Bernie, right here with Rustic Farms, is like, I know your uncle. And I'm like, what? I don't have any relatives here. And he's like, oh yeah, your uncle who lives in Wisconsin who raises chickens and created his own breed. And so I'm like, this community is really small. And so I love that you're trying to create almost like a LinkedIn, a way for everybody to connect. And so really interesting, fascinating what you shared, and looking forward to seeing where it goes. We do have some door prizes, because why not? We can. And Kevin, if you want to draw out a number there, and you all should have a little blue ticket.
Yeah, I left mine on the table.
So, and I would, everybody got 114115. 114115. Well, Aubrey, come on up here. Community First donated this beautiful plant here, and you can take it home. Maybe you can give it to your mom for Mother's Day, or keep it yourself. But we'll leave it as a decoration. But thank you so much. So we'll take a quick break, and we're going to come back at 3 o'clock, and it's going to be a little different. Our next thing we're going to do is a pitch competition. So take a moment, meet some people, go visit the vendors, get something to drink, and we'll see you back here at 3 o'clock, okay? We'll get set up for that. guys doing? Good, good. Oh, glad you came. Yeah.
I live in Clare, Missouri. It's a long story. I'm a state Yeah, we're a little different than Missouri. So, I mean, we're still
Somebody grab one with the horse.
Yeah, they took it into the boardroom.
No.
There were three there, I promise.
Good job. Thank you. I think Autumn grabbed it.
Oh, Autumn grabbed it.
Okay.
She's in the boardroom.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, panic.
Okay, nice to meet you. Enjoy it.
Thank you.
There's a booth. Yeah. Yeah, the first year they had this thing called that was in Yeah, I brought this one to that neighborhood from back around, and I just want to see it. And when I do, I just go to the
At that point,
that's kind of what I would have done, but yeah, my wife, of course, she wants to go back so she gets sleep, so she gets.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, I'm kind of that way. I'm like, I'm going to find something that's not have a drink, but I don't really like the house, so that kind of.
You're already out of the At that time of night, I got my table, so and they didn't even talk about it.
Yes.
Wow. And some of the liquor, I don't. It's fun to think like people have been there.
Yeah, we'll have to stop by.
We'll go there for a night.
Yeah, we don't get to go to downtown Nashville to do that.
We're here.
There are lots of places I can go and drink, spend time with you, but it doesn't have to be there.
Versus a $15 got something experience.
So, one that's been in Ozark. Yeah, but I'm gonna have to bring yours up.
We're gonna end up like washing the shirt in the
Place called really good
I think we dropped somebody off. Right. Well, they were like, God, I really didn't have that in line. I'm like, pancakes, there's no way. Oh my gosh, really?
It's embarrassing when they come home.
Yeah. Really?
They had him like he was all about it. They came out with like a giant sand university last night. I could have went another 50 years of body. He was all about it. Stop living.
I guess when they,
Oh, yeah.
They need to pull that shirt out.
really? I didn't know what it was. But we dropped something off. Drop me off.
Thank you.
Block of the starting time.
No, you guys can.
Let's get down there.
there's gotta be one.
mile, had to go across the river.
Okay.
And I'm like, we still got about a mile and a half. I'm like, are you kidding me? Why did I bring the shuttle?
Something like that though, it's like, you know, you're going the right direction, just follow it.
Yeah. Well, I was going opposite of the crowd, 'cause I was going.
So I just had to turn my computer around.
What did you do?
Did you get it plugged in?
I don't know. I unplugged this cable. I think it may be bad or something. But we're working now.
I was walking like that one time. I'm not getting here. I had 2 different shoes on. One was on my well, they matched to when I left the house. They got if I can be sure I can. I just would. And then I would at least but I'm not sure I can get his wedge pretty quickly. So instead, I'll just stand like this. Now I gotta figure out if I can be seen if I still have my chair by the back. And I wave my flag. I'm the official timer, so I wave the white flag. That's my job. And that's way. I'll just look it up. Oh, that is the cutest, tiniest seashell you will ever see in your life. I picked that up. I had one smaller, but it's not in this bar. I picked it up on a beach in the Turks and Caicos. I was sitting, reading my book. I put my book down, put my sunscreen on, and I reached from my book, and I realized I was in a field about this big. Seashells that all washed out. Collecting them. I got more and as I was looking at that, I was like,
Now we're ready for it.
that's
In that same room.
you want to join me over
Oh,
here?
excuse me.
No, you're fine. Just come on. So much.
Do I take my stuff?
Yeah, if you like, we can take it. Yes, Madison's in there working on it right now. Oh, I mean, Madison is in here following us. So I decided that I would wear this every day to remind myself that if God cares about a snail, then he cares about me, and I should quit worrying about this and just, and I've had people walk to the grocery store and the checkout line, and so, and it's giving me a chance to tell them I love them. So yeah, and thank you for asking. And my mother,
was waiting for you to figure out what you were going to do.
Well, we'll go ahead and get started. I know there's still folks still out there, but so we're going to start our pitch competition phase. So we've got 4 fantastic finalists from our Pitch Fest. That's something we held here at the Incubator in April. And we had 7 contestants that entered, and they pitched their ideas for a chance to proceed to today's final and a chance to win $1,000 to launch their business. So today you're going to have the unique opportunity to hear from the 4 finalists, and they've all been working with OzSBI's mentoring team to perfect their pitches. So it's a big day for them. Each of them will win a cash prize and ongoing mentoring from the incubator and our team to really advance their business. So I'm looking forward to hearing from them. And judging the pitch competition, we have Kevin, who's been through the round many times, Kelly Slayton, CEO with the Community First Banking Company, and then John Perkins, longtime pitch judge with the incubator. And both Kelly and John are on our board, so thank you all. There's also another judge in the room, and that's all of you. So if you look in your books on page 5, it's the chicken on page 5. Isla Sloan raises chickens, so we put chickens on every page here. Scan that QR code, and at the very end you get to select who you think should be the winner, which will be the People's Choice Award, and they'll get a fabulous prize. So,
Is there a Wi-Fi with it?
Oh.
I didn't have any.
you know what we'll do? We'll put it up here on the board, the Wi-Fi here. So, before I get started, I wanted to introduce you to Todd Weekly. Todd, in 2022, participated in OzSBI's Launch You class, which is a 9-week class to write a feasibility plan. I know we have a few people that just went through that program, Jimmy and Chance, you all have been through it. Todd was working full-time for the Highway Patrol, but really had a passion for the timber industry. And one thing that he noticed was there was a lot of waste in the timber industry. And what he saw was there was a problem of small batches of quality lumber being disregarded. And so his solution was to create a custom sawmill to create timber from that, or lumber from that. So Todd pitched his business idea, T&A Squared Wood Products, at Epic in 2022, and he was a first prize winner. So I want to invite Todd up before we have our first pitch person to give us a little update where he's at and share what's happening with T&A Wood Products since 2022. I know it's been crazy.
Thank you, Heather. Yeah, in 2022 I won, and it was because I saw a lot of waste. The lumber industry in the Ozarks is primarily dominated by hardwood flooring, and railroad ties. And if you couldn't make a railroad tie, it got thrown off, it got thrown into the chipper and turned into sawdust and various waste products. And I saw there a need for that. So I went through the class because I didn't know anything about business. And what I really liked about the class is it forced me to do the numbers, and a lot of numbers I didn't know I had to do. I didn't know that certain things existed. And then when I got to the pitch competition, and I decided to do it, I knew I had to square things away and square myself away because I didn't want to get up here and have all these numbers and it not make sense. And so that's what the pitch competition really honed that in for me and actually made me realize that there were numbers that I didn't know anything about and forced me to look at those. And that has benefited me now over the last 2 years. And like Mr. Johansson said, it's a wild ride. If you're going to do this, you're going to hit rock bottom and then be sky high again and rock bottom the next day sometimes. I'll give you an example. When I started this, I had a loader. And during the pitch competition, it was being repaired because I was new to this. I bought a low-end loader and was having it repaired. The mechanic took it apart to fix it and didn't put it back together for 18 months. And when I got it back, it was only partly together. So I didn't have a loader even then. And then I lost $7,000 when I sold it. So that wasn't a very good start to the whole thing. But things, again, that's the bottom. And then I got into with some other local mentors who found me a piece of equipment. I bought it, and I did as much work in 2 hours as I did in 2 years. And so it's all those highs and lows. And I mentioned railroad ties. I had no intentions of cutting railroad ties, and I still don't really enjoy it because they're heavy and they smash your fingers. But because of that 18-month furlough I took because of my loader not being working well, the dimensional and hardwood market for flooring softened incredibly directly after COVID. It just really did. It's just part of life. But one thing that went up was railroad ties. They went up to points still today that we've never seen. So now I'm cutting railroad ties like I never thought. That's that pivot. That, you know, stay within your lane, but be prepared to swerve. That's going to happen. And the waste product, that was my lane. That was like Mr. Jansen mentioned. Stay where it's, don't see the shiny things, but I wanted to conserve things. I didn't want to preserve it. I wanted to conserve it. I didn't want to see logs getting thrown away. And I can still do that and cut railroad ties, but most of my logs come from tree trimmers that are too big for sawmills to deal with, and they may have metal in them that the circle mills will not run. It's not a big deal if I hit metal on my saw, and size isn't really a big deal for me either. So I'm able to stay in that lane of conserving and using a product that I'm seeing wasted, and then capitalize on the railroad tie market that is just astronomical right now. I'll give you an example. Last October, BNSF ordered $8.6 million from this area. So it's on the rise. Hardwood's still low, dimensional lumber's coming up, but it's not great. So I'm still able to do that custom cutting, get the good quality boards, punch out a few railroad ties to keep the lights on, and I'm still able to do that. So that's where we're at now. I've been able to build a new building to house the mill, bought new equipment, smaller equipment to increase productivity, which is up 30% from when I did the pitch. So the class really helped me do the numbers and realize, okay, here's the numbers, here's what I can do, and here's what I need to do to increase it. And so that would be advice I would give to anybody is look at the numbers, don't fudge them. We all have the tendency to say, I think I can do that for cheaper. You can't. Just the numbers are what they are. The numbers are what they are, and if they tell you to go this way, follow them. If they don't tell you, it doesn't mean your idea is bad, but maybe you need to pivot. So when the softwood market went down, my numbers were bad. Doesn't mean it was a bad idea, it just means something else opened up. And that was railroad ties, and I'm still cutting those. I still cut the hardwood. I still cut softwood stuff. When the market's there, or when somebody needs it, it's just not there like it was when I stood up here 2 years ago, but maybe it will be next year. We never know. Anything else? Unless there's any questions, I guess.
Thanks, Todd.
So we're going to start a pitch competition. Each contestant will have 6 minutes to pitch, 3 minutes from questions to the judges, and then we'll let the judges kind of put their numbers together. The first up is going to be Dander Down with Jill Sloan. So it's going to get us started, and our flag is in the back, and you're going to raise the flag at 5 minutes. That means you have 1 more minute, and then when it goes up at the last, you have to stop speaking. So, okay? All right.
Well, I want to thank OzSBI for having me, and it won't be long, and I'm pretty sure we're going to have to name this place Ozarks.
Ozarks.
My name is Jill Sloan, and I'll give you a little bit of my background. I'm a serial entrepreneur. I've had several businesses. I started from the ground up, and I have 2 utility patents for inventions that I've created. My most current company is Dander Down, specializing in disposable pet garments for public and pet safety. Emotional support animals have gained great popularity over the past few years, and with them have come many challenges for our public transportation systems. Delta Airlines reported carrying 250,000 emotional support animals in their cabins in the year 2017. And most recently, American Airlines has lowered the charges for their ESAs on board and are advertising to get even more flying with their airlines. According to the AAFA, America's oldest asthma and allergy patient group, more than half, 59% of a survey that it carried out, reported having found themselves traveling in a cabin with an animal. And 22% of those experienced an asthma exacerbation or an allergic reaction on board. And then in 75% of those cases, such reactions were triggered when the passenger was seated within 10 rows of the animal. And we feel that shows a need that our product fills. The product is Comfortalls. I'll use one. This is my prototype and my favorite pet. It's disposable pet clothing in the form of coveralls, and it's made from a soft microporous material that's lightweight and breathable. People across the globe have relied on particulate and dust protective clothing to protect themselves from contamination, and we are doing the same thing with the microporous materials with the opposite intention. We're meeting the needs of everyone involved. In this case, I've packaged this for the airlines. It's got their logo, and they can order it on their website. Don't tell them I did that. It comes in 3 sizes and made from one continuous pattern for ease of dressing the animal quickly, and it's soft, quiet, and comfortable fabric for the pet. Let's see if I can go backwards. I'm going to mess that up, so sorry. The website is danderdown.com, and I plan to market to public transportation systems, to schools, as well as operations like Chewy's and Amazon and PetAge. I'm in the very beginning phases of this operation. I see my products being used in travel industries and hopefully becoming a requirement in some industries. I will apply for a woman-owned business, which I have had in the past, and it'll help to qualify me for more opportunities with public transportation systems and airlines. We will apply online through their websites and free samples, sales literatures, and appear in person. I'm ready to manufacture these products and market them, and I've contacted an attorney, and I've also started looking for funding. The pros, there's several, including one that I didn't name up here, which is there's no competition currently being used. I do have potential for growth going into other markets. I've considered kennel cover, which is made of the same microporous material, and it fits over the carry-on like a bonnet. And then post-op PJs, which will be offered to vets to help the pets keep from licking their wounds. I see it as a very profitable business. Each package costs 62 cents, and the wholesale price is $4.50, leaving it $3.88 for. And I just took the $250,000 for the one airline, which gives me $970,000, just under $1 million, and my startup cost for the first year is $66,000. I like all the zeros. And I'm ready for questions. I kind of went fast.
Do you have a patent?
I'm working on the patent currently. I have talked with an attorney.
Okay.
And then this, are these disposable?
Yes, they are, and they are recyclable because it's basically a paper product. It's a non-woven product.
So is there, let's take for instance, not a dog, but a cat.
Yeah, cats are kind of a challenge, but
Okay.
yeah, we want to dress a cat.
Well, my question was the cat, because I've
Right.
seen cats go through
Right.
that, and I mean, some of them do have the danger too, so I didn't know if it was just for dogs, or is there potential?
It depends upon the animal. I do have this in a size that's much, much smaller. It will fit a cat. I haven't gotten mine to cooperate.
And following up, just because that was, the attorney thing got me off track. But having a dog and having a large dog who doesn't like to have things on her, have you, experience? Have you?
Well, I have 2 Shih Tzus that
Okay,
bite, and
okay.
they don't like it either.
Okay.
But they aren't going on board an airplane. You know,
Okay.
they're not going to be going public transportation. Most of these animals, I would assume, probably erroneously, but maybe, they would be a little bit better behaved than mine.
Okay.
What do you see is going to be the biggest hurdle to get in front of the airlines?
Getting in front of the airlines, so far what I've found is getting in front of the airlines. They make you go through their websites and things like that, and so you have to keep submitting. But then also I plan on finding someone who can get me into the airlines.
Do you see, rather than trying to go through the airlines for packaging and just sell it straight to the consumer?
I have considered that, but business to business is a far easier business than going to consumers. Talking someone into this might be a lot like face masks were. They are doing this not for their dog, but for the people around them.
Would, oh, did I get a flag back there? I'm sorry. Don't raise the flag.
Connections.
Yes. No, I mean, have you thought of other places? Okay, because I think Kevin just raised the difficulty of getting in front of American Airlines versus maybe trying it on a local bus system, let's say in St. Louis, Kansas City, something
And
like
schools.
that. In school, yeah, no.
Yeah, schools are a pretty easy concept to be able to at least get to try out more product.
Because I think that would be, you know, just having some experiences and having them then become a spokesman for you to take to the airlines or something. It was,
Thank you, judges. I think that's it.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Give the judges a second. And we are live streaming this for some people that weren't able to attend today, so that's why we've got the things. So Donna, your timekeeper is right back here. She'll be raising the flag at 5 minutes, so you know you have 1 more minute, okay?
Gotcha.
And I'll let her tell you when to begin.
Okay.
So you're ready, we're ready whenever you are.
Hi, I'm Donna Harper. I've been in the spa industry now for 40 years. Crazy. but a wonderful thing, because you hear many, many people say, well, I got licensed, I was in the beauty industry, I was a hairdresser. Well, average time in the spa industry is 18 months. Average tuition now for a designer is $25,000. Think about that. Well, when you put it all together, I think a lot of it stems from lack of professionalism. Not having access to quick programs. Programs are wonderful in the industry. Keeping track of bail, your bankers, your accountants, your insurance agents, your legal, having it all together. In the spa industry, you have maybe 5 minutes sometimes in between clients. It needs to be speedy, and the app needs to be effective and very user-friendly, because it's difficult. Technology is difficult for many hairdressers who do not pay their taxes on time. We are notorious. We absolutely need legal. There are many times we are sued. I've experienced a frivolous lawsuit that was dismissed. I've been audited 3 times. 3 times. It's a cash business. We don't know how long cash is going to be around. Integrity plays all. So, right here, many problems, as I had mentioned. Lack of ability to market, not knowing how to market. You're licensed, they give you the license, you walk out the door. Do you go to Great Clips? Where do you go? What do you do? What is your business plan? There is none. Problems, as you can see, everywhere. Solutions, linking up to professionals immediately on your app. Designers, what do they do in between clients other than sanitize, hopefully? They sit on their phone making appointments, follow-up online appointments, being organized on the phone. An app is perfect. Link to professionals. I'm not going to read all of those, but those are a wonderful description of what I was for many, many years. As you can see, connecting to people that know what they're doing via email, a separate back page, paying your taxes through the app, paying for a legal service, prepaid legal, love it, linked up with that about the time I needed it. By then it was almost too late. Coming here, paying, being paid, making sure you know who paid you what and who tipped you once. So you need to know, gee, thank you. I got a $20 tip. I appreciate that. Please come back. Special dates, special times, special services. What do they need? Do they need a non-scented product? Plans. They can be very, very, very inexpensive. If you consider quantity, you draft as many stylists as you can into a wonderful business plan, the prices of every service goes way down. Next, insurance, $8 a month. Prepaid legal at the corporate level, you can get it at $17 a month. A few dollars for the app, and IT is the key. The most complicated thing is planning for an app. App development is difficult and it'll be rough, but I can think of 1.5 million salons and spas that are recorded in the United States alone. Can be developed for out of state, other countries, and other businesses. An all-in-one business app that is right at your fingertips, that you can press a button, pay your booth rent. Press a button, pay your prepaid legal. But have it all in one. We can do it. We can develop the app. It's a wonderful thing. It's a great solution and can be diversified to feed stores, any business, an all-in-one business application. Don't reinvent the wheel. Start with your scheduling appointment, and there are many that are standard, but add your services and back page. Thank you. Any questions, please? Welcome to Spa Vendors.
So the plan, booth rent, I'll just pick the top one. What do I get with that?
A lot of consulting. And again, there will be tweaking. You notice the asterisks until I absolutely know how many people are registered, how it starts. What's nice is progressively, the price could go down as we have more involved.
But this is going to be on the app. This is the app. Okay. Do you have a app
Prototype?
development? Yes. Okay.
Writing all over my walls and just
Okay,
as
okay.
was everywhere. I know exactly what we need. I know exact problems, double booking, huge problem. No shows, huge problem. But putting it all together can work. Any other questions?
Potential clients of yours would, these are the plans they have to pick from within the
It would
app?
not be the clients, it would be the operators. We're the ones
Yes.
that are fairly disorganized.
Okay. Okay.
And you mentioned the 1.5 million salons,
Mhm.
right?
That we
And
know
so-
right now.
And so that's where you're looking at putting people from those 1.5 million salons in each of these buckets, correct?
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's who you're marketing to.
Right. 24 publications that I'm aware of. I've been in 3. I have the largest Denver Metro spa. Advertising is huge. But right in, obviously, tech is important. Very, very important.
And that's how you would reach them, is through those publications, or is there, are
Publications,
there online?
technology,
Okay.
online.
Okay.
There is no brick and mortar other than what would be IT. And again, accessibility to IT is your big expense.
What other competitors are out there that have these
The
like
all-in-one?
kind of services?
0. We have appointments. Everybody has an appointment application. There are a few on our phones or that come with our phones. Great, it's wonderful, but it needs to be spa specific because a haircut may take 20 minutes, hour and a half, needs to be specific.
So would you consider like a platform called Monday for small businesses? You're
Right,
gonna do
exactly.
scheduling, payment, and all that.
Right, you
Would
can
that be-
start with a base plan, but you need to be linked to the professionals because being sued, being audited, not paying yourself, not having a 401k, and quitting 18 months later because you don't have any of this information. That it's
So they
devastating.
could link to that within your app?
It'd be right in there, and it would be paged. Have you ever seen wrestlers? Oh, I'm sorry.
No, you're fine, that's time.
She's waving the flag at us.
Oh.
Oh,
You can
oh,
finish your answer.
okay.
Yes.
Have you ever, anybody been a wrestling manager? I was in high school. Anyway, the way it can work is that it can be an easy app to connect to. Once you figure out, okay, bill pay. So you go over to your bills, just much like banking does. It can be attached to the program. And that's what's important, is that everyone is paid on time, everyone is scheduled on time, and reminders are huge. Because we're kind of spacey. And in 40 years, I've learned it all.
Thank you, Jim.
And thank you.
that means we're ready when you are.
Okay. I want to start with saying thank you everybody for being here today and giving me the opportunity to share my idea with you. So, my name's Andrew Bradley, and I was born and raised here in West Plains. I have a love for this town and community that we have surrounding it. I went to the Midwest Technical Institute in 2019 for HVAC and major appliance repair. I was in the industry for 4 years when I started my first business, Air Drew and Crew Handyman Services. It was through growing that business that I got the inspiration for Air Solutions. My team consists of myself and Adrian. Adrian's going to be my media specialist. He's an innovative and dynamic photographer with 4 years of experience. So the area of Howell County has had roughly 0.08% of its homes tested for radon. And out of the homes that have been tested, 45% have been positive with results far above the safe levels to be in. That translates to about 12 homes that have been tested, but 6 of them far above the safe levels to be in. So my vision is not only to mitigate the radon that's in this area, but the issue entirely through my company, Air Solutions. So if you look at this map here, this is showing the radon zones for Missouri, right? So you got zone 1, 2, and 3, yellow being 1 and red being 3. Most of Missouri is in zone 2, which is anywhere from a 2% to an 8% PCIL level, which is particle per liter of radon in the air. That's the equivalent of smoking 6 cigarettes every day for an entire year, every year that you're in that zone. So radon gas can damage cells in your lungs, which can lead to lung cancer. Radon gas was responsible for 21,000 lung cancer deaths in the United States this year alone. So radon exposure can happen in any type of home, whether it has a basement, a crawl space, or is built on a slab. Though it's more common to happen to accumulate in homes that are very well insulated, tightly sealed, and are built on the ground where there's a lot of radioactive materials. Air Solutions is not only a business that has the potential to help thousands of people, but it's also something that's a bit of a trailblazer in that area. Air Solutions is going to specialize in radon mitigation and mini-split installs. Air Solutions will be the leading radon mitigation company in the area. In the first year, my focus will be on the mini-split side of it and consumer education on the importance of radon mitigation systems in your homes and businesses. I anticipate that the mini-splits will carry the business until I can educate people enough about the radon side of things. I then plan on splitting the company into 2 branches. Air Solutions will be the only company providing radon mitigation services in a 200-mile radius. This is going to leave ample opportunity expansion for us, and providing this service is going to be able to help hundreds, if not thousands, of people. Our mission is to provide healthy, climate-controlled air to all the Ozarks through Air Solutions. If you look at this graph here, this is showing what a radon mitigation system looks like installed on the exterior of your home. This is a radon mitigation fan, and it's going to be pulling the radon out of your home, filtering it and venting into atmosphere. We're also going to provide these vanity covers to go over your radon fans. If you don't like the look of it, it's going to give it more of an aesthetically pleasing look. We're going to be able to provide interior installs on your homes as well, though they're going to cost a little bit more. This graph is showing not only what an interior install would look like, but kind of how the system works. So we're going to drill a 2-inch hole in the floor of your home, dig some dirt out, and that's going to cause that to be the naturally settling area for where that radon is going to be. We're going to put a 2-inch piece of PVC in the ground, and it's going to vacuum that radon out to your mitigation fan and then blow it to atmosphere. So I'm excited to tell you guys that we've also partnered with Samsung in order to provide you some of the newest specs technology for mini splits. And they've come out with these new in-duct units, which is amazing, right? So let's say your unit in your home goes out and you don't want to pay to get a full unit change out done, right? So these attach to your existing ductwork, allowing you to use your existing ductwork for heating and cooling. You can use them for zoning, and whatever you really think. And then there's the head units that attach to the wall, and then we have the pod systems as well. So in the first year of business, I project to make the majority of my income through the mini split side of the business until I can educate people on the importance of radon mitigation systems. The base cost of a radon mitigation system will be around $500 with the fan and PVC needed for the installation. We'll charge a base of $500 for the install itself. So the total cost of an install will be around $1,000. Those prices will go up or down depending on the amount of PVC needed and the difficulty of the job. Mini splits can range anywhere from $1,200 to $10,000 and up, depending on the unit needed and the distance line sets need to be ran. And we'll be charging a base cost of $500 for the installs for those. This is my financial projection for the first year. It's selling only the lowest cost units and jobs. We're projected to sell 30 radon installs and 40 mini split installs in the first year, which is going to bring my total revenue to $74,000 in the first year with a $37,000 profit. And it's going to take 1 to 3 days to install either of the units. I plan on using $1,000 from winning to invest into the radon test kits. And they usually run around $200 a unit. Thank you all for being here today and giving me the opportunity to share my idea with you. I look forward to the future of Air Solutions and potentially working with you in the future.
How are, while you're, so you're starting with the mini splits to try to build the business, work on building the radon, how are you going to market that?
So I'm going to be going through, so the EPA has every test that gets sent out, it goes to a big EPA thing that, because they have to monitor the radon levels. And when I reach out to them about classes to get certified in radon, they told me that there's no competition here that does that. And what they do is they get the tests and then they refer it to the nearest mitigation company, which would be me. So I'd be getting a bunch of references through the EPA for work.
The products, so Samsung, but I'm assuming all the products are coming through Samsung.
Yes, so I'll get a Samsung license.
Okay, okay. Because my question was, what kind of protection, patent protection, et cetera, so.
Yeah.
To get some of the people to convert from their existing systems, you said the biggest challenge is going to be educating on radon.
Yeah.
How, and you have a media specialist.
Yes.
So do you guys have a initial kind of storyboard plan on how you start educating those potential customers on the radon side?
Yeah, so what we're going to do is the Springfield's providing free classes to get certified in radon. I want all of my people to go there and get certified in it so they know the whole process and the dangers that radon can cause. And then from there we can go about posting it on our websites through all the West Plains groups. And then really I have a lot of connections with contractors and stuff through my HVAC experience, and I can kind of work through them as well.
So you just mentioned sending your people to classes. How many are you looking to reach that first year, 74,000?
Well, right now we're looking to have about 4 people, and I'm looking to get a sales guy, and then myself and then one of my buddies that I went to HVAC school with, he's going to be focusing on the mini split installs, and I'll be doing the radon side of things.
Okay. Does the EPA break it down, you have access to? The EPA's like, okay, we have a house over here, we have a house over here, we have a house back there, as to a general area where there might be radon.
So that graph is really showing the gas in the area, but the only way to tell if you need to have a mitigation system installed is to get tested.
Okay.
That's the only way to find out.
What's going to be the cost to test the house before you can move into selling units?
So through other radon companies that I've talked with, they're charging around $100 to go in there and test, because whenever you test, you leave that test kit in a home for a week. And then you send it to the company, then they'll go through the air that was collected, and then they'll test it, send you the results, and send you the box back. And that costs $50 to have sent off.
So are you paying for the test to send off, and then the consumer will pay for the $100, or are you?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you, Andrew.
Thank you.
Well, while we wait for the next pitch to come in, I thought we'll do a drawing. So our partners with Powell Oregon Electric Co-op gave us some very sharp knives. And so be careful, maybe wait to get home to open them, but also we're providing you a $20 gift certificate to Mason's Meat. So you can get some steaks or chicken or something like that. Maybe a steak. Yeah, that's probably right. Linda, would you like to draw? All right. Everybody got their number? It is 114109. 114109. Okay, wonderful.
Thank you.
Here you are. And I've got one more. Thank you for coming. And then let's see over here. How about you, CJ?
Sure. Just one.
Just one. All right. The last 114088. 114088. All right, great. Here you are. We appreciate that. And then I know that one thing that Kevin mentioned was Innovate SOMO and the network that we're a part of. And so OzSBI is a community connector, so I just want you to be aware that really the main goals with Innovate SOMO is to help foster tech startups here in the Ozarks, and also to create more careers in coding. And they have a lot of what they call the tech pipeline, startup pipeline. If you have an idea and you're like Kevin and you're not a coder, you don't know what to do, they will help you. You bring the idea to them and they will help you create a minimum viable product that you can go out and test. And in the back of the room, I'll have Mel Steele give away. Mel is with the eFactory, and he's also part of the Innovate SOMO network. We partner a lot together, so together the two of us can help plug in people. And Kevin and I are trying to get them to do an ag innovation hub, hub to get ideas from farmers. You know, if you see a problem on the farm or on the ranch or in what you do, to try to get those people together to come up with some problems so they can create the app solution. So we'll see where that goes. But anyway, that's my little stump speech, but connect with Mel and I if you're interested. All right, our next up is Manda.
Yep.
We'll let her get started.
Manda, so Joanna back here is going to wave the flag when you have a minute left, and then when your time is up, then there will be 3 minutes for questions from the judges, and she'll wave the flag again when that time is up. Do you need to see this? Possibly, yeah, that's what I was thinking. All right, thank you. And then which one do we push here? The one with no mark. No mark. Yep. All right.
All right, hi everybody. So you're probably wondering what exactly is Starry Night Events. Well, this is my business model that I started back in 2007. Initially, it began with a nonprofit cheer squad, and I realized with the events that I was hosting that I had a variety of talents, and I learned that the intersection of business and community work together quite nicely. And to be honest, it's absolutely epic, so I thought it was a great place to be presenting today here at Pitch Fest 2024. Talking a little bit about Starry Night Events, like I mentioned. I DJ, that's one of the main aspects of it, along with the event planning. That was born of the USA All-Stars, like I mentioned, back in 2007. In 2009, we added on premier fashion parties and began to continue adding Cake Quake custom cakery, truly unique photography, and PRC positive pageantry. I'm sort of a jack of all trades. It was wonderful when I lived down in Florida, also up in Wisconsin, moving here to Missouri after 20 years. It's been a while since I've been back. I realized that my niche was a little too nichey, and I needed to make it a little more nichier for this area. So with out-of-the-box entertainments, we began developing our food trucks that are coming this summer and through the rest of the year, as well as the Deep South Mo brand and the Wright County Homestead. So to develop a little bit further, we've got Nacho Mama's Street Truck, Raised Bar on the Run, and Press's Fat Bottomed Grill. Musically inspired, obviously, and also inspired by my mama and my 2 daughters. You can see that I've developed fun themes and bright designs that are really pleasing to the eye, as well as unique and delicious custom treats. These are all available as an add-on with or without an event package, and can be added with delivery, drop-off, or rental of any of our balloon arches or any of our inflatables as well. Additionally, these can be fully catered, all-inclusive, with staff and hosts. Adding on to that, we've got the Deep South Mo brand. This markets and caters to and for the locals. And then it does events in and around Douglas, Howell, Texas, Wright counties, along with the others here, and into northern Arkansas. Additionally, we've got our Wright County Homestead, and this is a hands-on approach to learning, so it involves the community. We've got a much poorer region up there, and this is going to be bringing the community members into the scene for locally sourced honey, hemp, produce, milk, and more. They'll be getting work and life experience through that. We've also got our petting zoo and animal sanctuary where we've got rescued animals that they will be able to help with that there too. So I've told you a little bit about what I do, how I do it, and this is why I do it. So aside from simply enjoying it, you can see 2010 Cinderella, 2020 Elsa. I thoroughly enjoy what I do. Aside from that, it builds character, no pun intended. The kids love it. It promotes my business all around. It's an excellent talking point. It offers new and exciting community opportunities, gives back to the community, and it makes people like me and people that like me smile. Here you can see a timeline of events. It's a little bit loose, but it starts here in May of 2024, working all the way out through September as we transition from Starry Night events to the Wright County Homestead and out-of-the-box entertainment. We'll be working on our SEO and Google Analytics, as well as maps, getting established up into the latter part of the year, running ads, promotions, and giveaways, as well as hosting community events. There in the middle, you'll find that we're establishing our presence on social media, introducing our food trucks and trailers, and then also giving out business cards, compiling email lists, and working to really get the clientele within our reach. Moving out a little bit further, October 2024, you'll see that we're doing a lot of community events into January 2025, at which point we'll be rerunning our ads, rebranding, working on promotions, heavy focus on giveaways, things like that. And in the middle, we've got our holidays. So those are always super busy with just the holiday things themselves. We've got sweets and treats, holiday parades that the kids get involved with, booths for holiday shows through the out-of-the-box entertainment and such. Here you can see how I plan to bring in the revenue. With the businesses that I've had in the past, I've got a pretty good idea what brings stuff in. And essentially anything with events brings something in, and you can add it on to the other ones here. So I've got Starry Night events, which is where it started, obviously. We've got standalone events, DJing, event planning. We've got premier fashion parties where we do home parties. We also had a venue in the past, so that was very, very popular. We had a stage and whatnot. Those are super popular with word of mouth. Truly unique photo. We do weddings, family portraits, and such. Our custom cakes. We do weddings and events. We also cater. We do a lot of donations through CQ. Then our out-of-the-box entertainment, we've got inflatables, yard signs, and balloon arches that we're introducing locally. These all partner really great with my nonprofit initiatives up there. We've got our PRC Positive Pageantry, encouraging kids to get involved in the community. USA All-Star Productions, and then the Wright County Homestead. And as far as how it impacts the community, you'll see that, is that it?
Is that the 1 minute or the one time?
Yeah, one minute.
Oh, good, okay. Sorry about that, I was like, I better speed it up. Long-winded. All right, so how it impacts the community. Starry Night events created our movement here. You'll see that out-of-the-box entertainment is creating local opportunities. PF creates the fun. CQ brings the flavor. Our treat trucks create a unique twist on food. USA All-Stars brings community, camaraderie, and smiles. PRC creates confidence and stage presence. The Wright County Homestead creates a life and work experience for locals. Our princesses give back to the community, and Truly Unique captures it all on film. So aside from everything else, you can see that I've amassed a fair amount of experience. Some of it demonstrated with the cakes, some of the cakes that I've done here, along with some of my accomplishments that I've got listed. We've got our Citizens Combination Award that I received for working with the local community and fire departments. And that's followed me through. I've also been voted Best of Wisconsin, nominated Best DJ and Event Planner in Florida, created cakes for the rock band Jackal, Packer legend Gilbert Brown, and Miss Wisconsin's wedding cake. I've been a celebrity for a pie auction and a volunteer, winning internationally in St. Louis. So, from all of my many businesses, thank you very much. I hope you've enjoyed.
Judges, if you can speak up on your questions, that'll help us back here.
Okay, if someone was going to book you, can they pick and choose from these, this is kind of an a la carte thing?
Absolutely, yep. All of our businesses and nonprofits work as an a la carte. So they can either be booked individually with each individual service through that. Otherwise, they can add them together. You can book through Starry Night events. We've got event packages. Premier Fashion Parties has event packages. Otherwise, you can simply select one piece here and there. They've all got their own websites, own Facebook pages, all monitored separately and answered separately.
So most best event for making money? Okay, just making it successful. What would you say?
That's hard. While I would be inclined to say weddings because they are expensive. Pageants also, obviously, people want to invest a lot. They sponsor the kids and whatnot. That goes right back into the organizations. But then I would be more inclined to likely say the premier fashion parties, and that is actually through the volunteering that I do. So when I get my princesses out there, people see it, they like it, they ask questions, they interact, they get a good feel for what my business encompasses and the people that they work with, and the word of mouth really is what gets it. So
what's the lowest return?
well, I do a lot free, so
Okay.
I would say probably the cheer squad or the photography. Honestly, a lot of them I do volunteering and donations. I can't pick any one here that I don't contribute.
But the food, okay, so that's some food trucks and that experience in that area?
So I haven't done actual food truck.
Okay.
We're working on those, getting them up and ready. I have a party bus that wasn't mentioned here, so I've got experience with the mobile wheels, but not. I've managed a bar, so I've got an idea how things work, and I am inclined to say that I'll be contributing by donating as well. It's truly the best way to do things, and I'm always going to give out samples. If somebody needs a deal, if somebody has circumstances where they need help, I'm always going to give back.
Is with everything that's going on,
Mm-hmm.
how many people do you need to execute all this? Because we have an event space.
Yeah.
And I'm the furniture mover.
Yeah.
So whenever there's like 5 events in a 2.5 day span, like how many people do you need to execute?
Well, to be completely honest, when I started, it was me. I was the only full-time person. I had my older daughter, who was at the time 7 years old. She would help me with a few things here or there. My mom would work on her time off, and it was the 3 of us. It developed into a business of about 8 of us, and those were friends who worked for next to nothing because they were really just that good of friends. When I moved to Florida, it was myself, my husband, my mother, and my daughter, and that's basically what I do.
Okay, that is time for questions.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you so much.
So if you all recall, you are also a judge. So if you open up your books and you get to choose People's Choice by scanning that QR code, that's your homework. So if anybody needs it, I've got a book up here. I'll leave. But we'd really would appreciate if everyone would take a minute and scan the code, and then we're going to have a little break for the next 15 minutes and come back at 4:15. What we have coming up next, I'm really excited about. We've got Amy Hamilton with Hamilton Native Outpost, Jolene Durham with Piney River, and Kristen Newman with the Farmer's Dog. Really excited to hear the story of these 3 local ag entrepreneurs and what they're doing and where their businesses are at now. So once you do your homework, scan the code, feel free to get a snack out front, and then remember we've got restrooms over here too, so everyone doesn't have to use the same one over here.
Has survived in
Right? Notice I haven't been in service. I do learn.
Flag has already been waved on.
Okay, all right, guys, it's time. It's time. I'm waiting for you.
We'll talk to you then.
Let's go ahead and get started so we can stay on schedule.
I know she needs to come up here.
Come on up, and Kristen, come on up. All right.
Like, don't make me sit up here alone.
Okay, so I'm going to thank you all again, once again, for attending. This has been an exciting day so far, and I love the energy in the crowd this year. It just gets better every year. So this is the Ozark Innovators Roundtable, and we call it this because we feel like everyone in business in the Ozarks is an innovator. This is not an easy place to be a business owner. I mean, all of us know that. All of us up here, all of us out here, we know that. So these are true Ozark innovators. This year we brought in 3 lovely women, coincidentally, who are engaged not just in business in the Ozarks, but also in agriculture business in one way or the other. So we have Kristen Newman here with The Farmer's Daughter and also Newman Farm, thank you.
That's fine.
We have Amy Hamilton from Hamilton Outpost, and then finally Jolene Durham from Piney River Brewing Company. So I'm not going to go through the process of introducing them any further than that because each speaker will have 10 minutes to introduce themselves to you and talk a little bit about their entrepreneurial journeys. Then after that, I will ask a few questions. You will have a chance to ask a few questions and we'll moderate a roundtable discussion. So let's please welcome these 3 and get started. And we'll start with Kristen.
So my name is Kristen Newman. I grew up on a farm outside of Jefferson City, Missouri. It's a century farm, which means it's been in the same ownership for over 100 years. That's where I became the farmer's daughter. I grew up, my dad farmed full-time. We had row crop, cattle, and hogs. And I was the #1 tool finder and hay raker and hay bale mover. One of my favorite things, my dad's like, he's under the combine, and he's like, hey, go find the green pry bar. So I'm like 11, 12 years old, and I'm digging, can't find this thing. So he comes over, and he's like, it's right here. He pulls it out, and there is a speck of paint that's green, the size of my fingernail, and that's it. But that was the green pry bar, and I'll never forget that. So my love of agriculture came from him. I was very involved in 4-H and FFA, and I always say like that changed my life completely. Before 4-H and FFA, I showed pigs. I did cake decorating and woodworking, all those things, but it taught me how to talk in front of people. Before that, I would not be able to call and order a pizza. It was really, really bad. So that's kind of how I got my start. And then I went to college at the University of Missouri in Columbia in agriculture. I had no idea what I wanted to do, but I knew that farming and agriculture was important to me, and it was part of who I was. I met my husband there, who was a farmer. My goal was like find a partner that was in agriculture. Once we got him, I transferred to education. So really, education and agriculture are my true passions, and I wanted to raise my family on a farm. So it's always been part of who I was, but I didn't know how to culminate it into something concrete, I guess. We moved to, so my husband grew up in southern Missouri in Myrtle, which is about 18 miles south and east of Thayer, Missouri. There's not a lot going on. His family, there's a post office, and a quick stop and Newman Farm. So we moved from our married life. We lived in Fargo, North Dakota. My husband was a professor there. We moved back to Myrtle in 2016. My father-in-law had passed away. So Mark and Rita Newman started the farm in the early 90s. That's where David grew up. And then they raised hogs, like commercial hogs, but outdoors on pasture. So they were doing the outdoor pasture raised before it was really cool and trendy. But Mark thought that was the best way to do it, so that's what they did. In 2000, the hog market crashed. Everybody, like, it was really, really bad. Like, there was a lot, there was suicides, there was, foreclosures. It was really bad. So you either keep doing the same thing and try to expect a different result, that's insanity. Or you pivot and do something different. So the big pivot was focus on quality over quantity. So the Berkshire breed is known for the meat quality, and we actually have some of the oldest genetics in the country. It's an English-based breed known for its meat quality, and they raise them outdoor on pasture. So everything is farrowed outside, which means they have their babies. Random piece of trivia, gestation for a pig is 3 months, 3 weeks, and 3 days. So that's kind of interesting. So either way, we came back to the farm, took over the business after Mark passed away, and it's kind of, you know, bad things can happen. It's all about how you handle those bad things is what sets you apart from everybody else. So when Mark and Rita had the business, they were doing farmers markets in Memphis, and they would sell to restaurants. When you do farmers markets, you have lots of parts and pieces that you have to manage, and freezer space to manage, and that's a lot of work. So when he passed away, we had to like reconfigure, because we didn't live here, we lived 1,000 miles away. Rita was on the farm by herself, and we had a couple employees, so we weren't totally, but doing parts and pieces was no longer common sense. So we pivoted to only focusing on restaurants, halves and wholes, and then after that, whenever we moved back, we started doing a little more retail and a little more, so we were able to pivot that way. So I say that whenever, in 2020, we were 99% wholesale, and then in 2020, all the restaurants shut down, our pigs were still growing. We still had things in the freezer that we had to do. So thankfully, we had just happenstance, had things set up. We had online retail, which, you know, getting a website's really difficult to do if you're not an expert in it. We had freezer truck and a walk-in freezer established. So we were able to like peddle meat off the back of the trailer. Like literally we'd go to Jonesboro and we'd say, here's $50 for a box of meat, so we could keep that going. And then out of that came the farmer's daughter. And so how that started was, I'd been at home doing I do all the financial, all the paperwork, anything with a piece of paper, that's what I do. My husband does all the live side and I do the meat side. So with some of our buyers and a little bit of our producers, we have other people that raise pigs for us. But I'm at home in our little home office with my kids doing online schooling, and that was a lot. So we had talked about renting this building in Thayer in order to ship our stuff. We were going to use that as our central hub. So we rented the building, but it needed a garage door install, and so the people we rent from said, hey, we'll install the garage door. Well, after they did it, we said, no, it's 18 miles to Thayer. Like, you don't just like, oh, I forgot my notebook, I'm going to go home and grab it real quick. It doesn't work like that. And so instead of saying, hey, thanks for installing that garage door, we're out, we're not going to do it, we went ahead and opened the store. I just like, we'll put a freezer in there. And how it turned out to be is like this, we've got this pork here, but now I have the opportunity to use my passion for education and agriculture to bring in all these other vendors and producers and make it available to other people. So I have 30 different Missouri, Arkansas vendors that I've built with relationships and conversations that I've had. And today, actually, I've got 2 new relationships that I get to use my store in order to show that to the community. I do classes. I don't teach them, but I get other people to teach classes, usually once a month. So I've got a sourdough starter class happening this week. I've got wreath making, and like that's my passion for education and agriculture all rolled into one. And so I'm very thankful to have that opportunity. And that's me.
Well, I'm Amy Hamilton, and around 40 years ago, my husband and I started a native grass and wildflower seed company. And it mostly supplied a product for the Conservation Reserve Program, which is kind of, you take your cropland that's eroding or it's just not very productive, and you put it into these wildflowers and natives, and it's good for pollinators. Well, in 2012, we learned of a study that was done at the University of Minnesota that said 16 species randomly chosen was 238% more productive than switchgrass. And switchgrass is a native grass that's a biomass king of the natives, so it's one of the more productive ones. So 2012, we wrote a conservation innovation grant within our CS, Natural Resources Conservation Service, and we planted 99 species of diversity for the purpose of grazing, not for just the CRP program.
And this is what we learned from that grant, that we increase the organic matter. Organic matter is what makes soil soil, otherwise it's dirt. And the water doesn't soak in. So, and what we learned from that is that we increase the organic matter by 1%, which doesn't sound like very much, but there's only 2 or 3% organic matter in most soils. But that 1% we could hold in a 1 foot by 1 foot by 6 inch slab of dirt, 6 inches deep. We could hold 0.62 more gallons of water with that increase in organic matter. That's a lot of water. And then we had somebody from NRCS come out. They kind of started a soil health movement for cropping systems, for corn and bean agriculture. And in that we learned that diversity was one of the most important things, that we have diversity, a green growing plant in the soil for as long as possible. And he was doing infiltration tests on our fescue, which is a predominant non-native forage here in Missouri, versus our diverse natives for grazing. And we infiltrated water, and we infiltrated water a little bit faster when you'd pour the first inch of water into a ring that you pounded down into the soil. But the second inch that you put in, we infiltrated 2 times faster in our diverse natives for grazing pasture versus our fescue pasture, all on a similar landscape position. And we also learned that it's very important that we put down a carboniferous mulch on the land. It's just like in your garden. You put this mulch down, then the water doesn't wick out of the soil back up into the atmosphere. It stays down in the land, so that we can have an effective water cycle. We also, and really I'm going to tell you that our first planting of diverse natives, we had some problems getting rid of our fescue, but we were we had 2 times more animal unit days of grazing, on that. And that's just a way that cowboys measure their grazing. So the other thing is, and all of this is with no fertilizer. So we're not putting any fertilizer on our fescue or our diverse natives. So we are regenerating our soil with the diverse natives. So we started looking at what we had done, and as the soil health movement started moving on, we just kind of piggybacked on NRCS's soil health movement with diverse natives for grazing. And we learned that our big warm season grasses, big blue stem, switchgrass, eastern gamma grass, Indian grass, that they actually share their sugars with soil life. And the soil life, the sugars are sent to different plants or different places through a mycorrhizal network, which is fungi that connect plants to different plants and different places, in the soil. And so these nutrients these sugars are shared with soil life to make phosphorus available in the soil. It's not available in the soil unless it's being cycled from dead, dying material. If it's not used, it'll get tied up. So then it has to be microbially mediated to get that phosphorus available. And that's what our big warm season grasses do. And the deep roots, they're twice as deep, always, they'll be twice as deep as what the fescue roots are. And the design for that in our clay soils in the Ozarks, the potassium only has 1 ion on it. I barely passed chemistry, guys. So it easily leaches down. And sure enough, when I did some soil health testing, below the fescue roots, we had boatloads of available potassium down there. But the roots weren't accessing it, cycling it. So the big blue stem roots, these deep-rooted plants could go down, and then they could cycle the nutrients, and then through the dead, dying vegetation, it would cycle then to the next growing plant. What Hamilton's did is we went back to the prairie and we collected the native cool seasons. So fescue, the main pasture grass that's not native here in Missouri, is a cool season. So I always thought, well, why do you need more cool seasons? We just don't need them. But come to find out, fescue is not a companion plant of the warm season grasses because it's not mycorrhizal. it doesn't work in that community of plants. So we went and collected the cool season grasses, and of course we knew these cool season grasses are not very big. When I place them beside fescue, it's hard to get on a soapbox and really talk about how productive they are. But you know, they grow between the big blue stem clumps is what they do, and they really don't take up any room. You can't get the clumps of grass all that close together. And what we learned is, you know, people have a lot of problems with fescue grazing at this time of the year because it's too much green, it's too high in protein. So they like to save a little bit of dead fescue from last year to eat with the new growth. And so the design of grasses, of the cool season grasses, is they are too high in protein. And so the design is, in the wintertime, they eat a little bit of brown of the warm season grasses that go dormant. The cool season grasses grow in the cool time of the year. They eat a little brown with the green, and they can get an adequate diet, protein and energy level there. So because the university, there's nothing to patent here, guys. You know, there's just work to go do and to try. So there's nothing to patent, so the university's really not interested in testing these systems or working with us on it. So we plant it and we graze it, and we have field days. We've been having field days for 15 years, showing how these how these things work. The other thing is you need to grow the wildflowers. So we planted some of the native wildflowers with the warm season grasses. We have a history of going to the prairies. For 30 years we've been going to prairies harvesting seeds, and a lot of times we might just have 3 or 4 sacks wrapped around us, and we're harvesting with a pocket knife, trying to get enough seed to gather up so we can finally have enough to machine harvest. So what we've learned about the wildflowers is, well, to start with, the grazing season, as I said, in the winter time, we're eating the green of the cool season grasses and the warm season grasses, the brown. And then as we go on through the summer, about this time, the warm season grasses are getting big enough. Cattle love the warm season grasses because they're high in energy. So then they start to eat just the warm season grasses because they would really rather not eat the brown stuff. So they eat the warm season grasses. As a grass matures in August, these grasses are trying to put up a seed head. The protein level goes down when any grass starts to mature. So then they want to balance their diet, and to do that, they need to eat some of the wildflowers, because the design isn't that they eat these cool season grasses. They're kind of dormant in the summertime. That's not what they'd rather browse some of these wildflowers to get the protein, and some of the native legumes as well are high in protein. So we kind of see how the plan of the prairie, was for grazing. It was for soil health. It was to cycle nutrients, is what it's for, and and it just kind of all came together so that we could see, how these different plants function. The wildflowers, I'm just really hitting the high points because there's so much diversity out there in our wildflowers that, some of them, like compass plant, has a root that does not regenerate, but it goes very, very deep, accessing nutrients down deep. Cattle love this plant. The sunflowers have a pretty shallow root that's very woody in nature, and about half the root system dies back every year and regenerates itself. Talking about putting carbon in the soil, that's how we put carbon in the soil. And the sunflowers did terrific because we had low carbon soils. So, we're kind of seeing them start to abate after 10 years, and other things kind of start to express themselves just a little bit more. So there's a lot of different plants that we are learning about. And I think that what has been really rewarding, I went to college and studied soils, but then just started growing plants, and then to come back to soils and understand the soil health benefits and the regenerative aspect of what our native grasslands can do. then come to find out, as we would go to Missouri Forage and Grassland conferences, we'd go to conferences to set up a booth at these, you know, we learn more, you know, not only about diversity, but about low cost, you know, least cost wintering of animals, you know, and that's very, very important to, you know, winter is the most expensive time, and if you're, time to feed animals, and if you're putting up hay, you know, you just can't, there's no money left in commodity agriculture, you know, if you're gonna feed expensive hay. So we gotta learn to do this, you know, in a good way is what we need to do. But, and we listened to a professor out of Utah State that he studied plants, specifically more of the forbs, shrubs, and things, and of plants with secondary plant compounds is what they called them. Now the primary plant compounds are protein and energy, but he studied these secondary plant compounds, which are compounds and that you know, prevent herbivory. Plants, you know, that it might prevent herbivory at a certain time of the year is what we're finding. Some of the wildflowers, you know, they won't graze at a certain time of the year, and we see that this is the time it's regenerating, that plant might be regenerating its roots. So, you know, all these things are just protective mechanisms for the plants so that they're not overgrazed. And when you begin to realize that cattle don't want to eat fescue, well, everything that's left in the pastures, things they really don't want to eat. You know? So, you know, you begin to look at, you know, what Mother Nature has put together. But anyway, these secondary plant compounds, they now call them phytonutrients. Come to find out, these phytonutrients, when they're in our food, you know, they are medicinal in nature, not only to the animal, but to people. And if we feed corn-fed, you know, if we eat a corn-fed hamburger versus one raised on pasture, a neighbor of ours did some testing on these burgers. This is being done, this research is being done to see how the food, how the phytonutrients affect the animal, if it goes into the animal, and then how it affects the food when people eat that animal. So this is kind of the latest research. It's being done by at Utah State by Stefan Van Viet, yes, out of Utah State. If anybody wants to follow that, it's all kind of ongoing. But how do we? Oh yeah, our neighbor tested some of the beef, and to eat, you had to eat 2.75 hamburgers of the feedlot beef versus one hamburger of the grass-fed beef to get the equivalent phytonutrients. Now, the protein and energy were the same in each burger. There's not a difference in protein and energy. It's these other nutrients that are good for people. So I think that, and we're all learning, you know, I just watched a documentary on gut health. Okay, and you know, in that documentary, we have a lot of problems. You're supposed to eat 30 vegetables in a week. You know, that's about everything in the grocery store. So this is another way to do it. So where do we go from here?
So I get to go last, so I get to tell you two things that these ladies don't know that I'm going to say about them, but Newman Farms pork is the bomb. Okay?
Thank you.
My family, they like to eat two things. They like to eat steak from beef cattle, which we raise, and porterhouse pork chops. So there's your big tip. Go get a porterhouse pork chop. You will not be disappointed. Then Amy is the mother of Brooke Hamilton, who is our graphic designer at Piney River Brewing. And Brooke is a freelance designer. She works for lots of people, but she, born and raised in the Ozarks, obviously has a great sense of the Ozarks living, having lived in Texas County. And we were her first clients after she got out of college, and we've never looked back. We have a great working relationship. I just say, Brooke, I need this idea. And she comes up with it. currently, our current seasonal beer is called Honeybee Helles. And so it's a Helles lager that has local honey in it, and the label art is wildflowers. I knew Brooke would knock that one out of the park. And it's so fun because we come up with these labels, and you know, our beer is here in the Ozarks, and people see those labels and they connect with it. And I have had so many compliments on the Honeybee Helles. It's like, you know, is this a t-shirt? Is, you know, so anyway, I'm very grateful that Amy had a baby and she wanted to have a graphic design business and stay in Texas County, and then Newman Farms feeds our family, so we greatly appreciate that. But to tell you a little bit about Piney River, we started in, I guess it would have been 2009. My husband and we were sitting around a bonfire drinking a quadruple beer from someplace in New York, actually a farm brewery in New York. And we were like, you know, we need to do something to invest in ourselves. So I grew up in Texas County. My husband Brian, who's sitting in the back, did not. And I left Texas County and said, I'm never coming back. There's nothing here for me. And I was, you know, raised on a beef cattle farm. My dad started an ag implement manufacturing company when I was in high school. So, you know, I was very much connected with Texas County and what was there, but I just never really thought there would be anything there for me to come back to. Then I go to college in Philadelphia, meet my husband, who is from southern New Jersey, and not like, I know you're thinking New Jersey, like garbage capital of America. It's not really. They grow a lot, they feed New York City in southern New Jersey and Philadelphia. And anyway, Brian loved the Ozarks and was like, oh my gosh, I want to go back there and live. And so we moved back, and he helped run my dad's business. I worked there for a little bit after college as well. We bought a farm in Bucyrus, and Brian's businesses, or his background is business and accounting. Mine was writing and marketing and communications, and we eventually bought cattle. Our farm was 80 acres, and you know, we're going about our life like, okay, you know, we're going to have jobs, we're going to run cattle. But in 2008, the stock market crashed. And that was really what we were doing to invest in ourselves, and that's not a bad thing. But overnight, we watched everything that had sort of been, you know, as young married couple, like saving everything we could, putting it into the stock market. We watched that go to half overnight. We're like, well, you know, we've got to find a way to diversify and do other things and make an investment in ourselves beyond just putting money in a 401k that we aren't really sure is going to be there. So we're sitting around a fire drinking a high ABV beer, and we're like, well, what do we do? Well, we like beer, and we had, you know, we enjoyed home brewing. Every time we would travel, we would visit breweries, although there weren't a lot of them, you know, but if we go out somewhere, we'd be like, okay, well, you know, we weren't drinking like the macro brews. It was like, what is unique and interesting that we can drink that's here at this bar or restaurant? And we decided, you know, we should start a brewery right here in Texas County, because there aren't any breweries in the Ozarks. And really at the time, there was not a lot of craft beer that was readily available. I could tell you all of the craft breweries that you could buy in Texas County in 2009, and there was one out of Willow Springs that was local. Occasionally we could find his stuff. That was kind of cool. But you know, we're like, let's make beer and get it out into the world that comes from the Ozarks, because the Ozarks is a great place. And you know, craft beer is about place. It's about, you know, the ingredients that are from there. It's about you know, the things that make that beer specific to where it's from, be it a name, be it an ingredient, you know, just the marketing of it. So we had an old barn on our farm that was built in the 1940s, and it was literally an old barn. We started hauling hay out of the barn on the hottest day in July. We drilled a new well on our property because we had an old hand-dug well. We knew that we needed to get deeper. We have great water in the Ozarks and great water at our property as well, and so we were excited to be able to utilize that. And we hired someone to help us begin to renovate that barn. We did a lot of it ourselves as well. And we were like, well, you know, if this doesn't work out, we'll at least have a cool place to hang out with our friends. So, you know, if you've ever been to our brewery, you'll know that we have a lot of friends now. I never knew I had so many friends. So things have worked out, but the process was that we decided we would need to get an SBA loan because we started brewing 10 gallons at a time. People were showing up, they were drinking all of it. We would have to shut down for a few weeks so we could brew more beer. And ultimately, very quickly, we went to our local bank and we had a business plan that we had put together. We got an SBA loan to help us buy our first brew house, a small canning line, and we began packaging beer for distribution. And our plan all along was that we were going to distribute beer. Back in 2010, 2011, there weren't tap rooms in every town. I mean, now you can go to Springfield and you could spend all day, maybe all weekend, you know, visiting all these little tap rooms that have popped up. And we thought, well, people will come to Bucyrus once. They'll drive down Gravel Road and be like, okay, this is interesting, we're never coming back. Our car got dirty, you know. So we didn't even realize that there was the component of being out in the middle of nowhere, that people would love to come sit on a deck and drink beer and bring their kids and watch the cows and watch the sunset. And so the whole farm brewery concept was really not a thing when we started, and that has become a thing. And we got our SBA loan, we started distributing our beer. I think Brian and I had read somewhere that there was like 1 million people a year that come to the Ozarks and float in our rivers. And so we were like, if we could just get 1 can of beer in the hand of every person, that's 1 million cans of beer. So, you know, that's a good business plan. And so part of the way the alcohol industry works is that you cannot, you know, make your beer, sell your beer on site, and also send it around, you know, take it to bars and restaurants and all that. So we have to work through distribution channels. So that's a little bit of a challenge for us. Over the years, we have distribution throughout most of the state and also in Arkansas, but we've had distributors that have sold. Our brand is something that they own, so then we have to, you know, we're suddenly owned by a new distributor. And, you know, we make a lot of different kinds of beers, but we have some distributors that don't necessarily want to drink all of our beers or sell all of our beers. So we'll have, you know, Joe or Jane Smith in, say, Springfield, Missouri, that loves Bronzeback Pale Ale, but they can't get Bronzeback Pale Ale because our distributor doesn't want to carry that brand. So, you know, it's a hurdle that we have to cross. And in 2016, I believe it was, we we built a bigger barn on our property and put in a bigger brew house, bigger canning line. So we have a lot of capacity. We can brew a lot more beer. We did that at the urging of our distribution partners, of them saying, you know, it was sort of like they were saying, you know, we're not sure you're going to be able to meet the demand. So until you show us that you can do that, you know, we're only going to sell so much. Well, so we made a over $1 million investment in more equipment, a building, etc. And, you know, we're still waiting on them to max us out, or maybe you guys, I don't know. But you know, we've had some difficult times along the way. 2020, holy cow! Could you imagine being the business where all of a sudden you're like, everybody's got to stay home. You got to shut the doors to your tap room. I mean, we have a lady in our tap room that cleans our lines to our taps every other week, and we actually shut down our tap lines, and like we did like a, we're closing them out. And she was like, I never thought I would see this. And we had employees that were like, we don't know where the beer's going to go. And at the same time, we had actually had another farm on our road that had come up for sale. It was a century farm that the family had decided that nobody in the family was wanting to take it over, and they offered it to us. And we were just like, yes, because we have beef cattle, and we're like, we can increase the size of our herd. There was an old house on that property that literally, we opened the door and we're like, and then shut the door, and we're like, don't go in there. And we had to have insurance on that place, and the bank, of course, required that we have insurance on it and all these little outbuildings that old farms have, and they said, you've got to insure all this, so we did. The week that there was the shutdown, we had baseball-sized hailstorm come through, and it about destroyed that house. And we took the month-long closure that we had, and we took our employees and we gutted that house, and so we now have what we call the Piney River Experience. So we have what we call our bed and brewery, because I'm not going to cook you breakfast, but I will put beer in the fridge for you. And we have people coming from all over, and I'm happy to say I think we finally got it open in 2021, and we have people now that are they're on their third, fourth trip coming to stay with us and bringing friends. And one of the really awesome things about Piney River Brewing is that beer reaches a lot of people. We've had people from all over the world that come to our brewery. People buy beer and take it on vacation, and then people show up that have been in some state far away, and they've enjoyed our beer, or they're traveling through and they saw there was a brewery. They are not scared to drive 2 miles down a gravel road to spend the afternoon with us. Mm-hmm. So our motto is taste the Ozarks, and that's the thing that if you look on one of our cans of beer, it has the ingredient list. It says Ozark spring water or Ozark well water. So that is something that we're hanging our hat on, is that we're part of the Ozarks, and you can come to our farm and drink beer and watch cows, and it's been an experience.
That was wonderful. I thought I knew about your businesses, but now I know so much more. How fascinating. Okay, so I have a couple questions, and then we're going to open it up to the crowd as well. Just this question is for all of you. One thing that I heard kind of all of you saying is that you recognize something special about the Ozarks in this place that we all live in, but you also recognized that your customer base has to be from a little bit further outside of the Ozarks. Maybe not just people here. I know you send your pork all over the country. I know you recognize that people need to come to you, but also you have a distribution system. And I guess you didn't specifically say this, but I assume that you sell your seeds all over. So I guess I'm curious, for those of us in the audience, that can be a challenge, trying to figure out how to get it out of the Ozarks and capture the attention of a wider market. What would you suggest for that? What has been kind of the key for you, for each of you? And we'll start with you, Jolene.
Okay. So, it's been interesting. Social media began blossoming around the time that we started our brewery. So social media is huge. I swear that there's going to come a day I will never do social media again, because that's my wheelhouse. And I faithfully, promote our brewery on social media. I've started a newsletter. I realized that that's another form of reaching out to people, keeping a website updated. We put QR codes on our sampler packs. We're working on new labeling right now, so we're putting a QR code on there that directs you directly to our website. Come visit us, come see us, and with distribution, you have somebody that's putting your product out there, but with beer, it can go bad. Is it on a warm shelf? Is it on a cold shelf? Is the tap line clean in the bar? These are all things I have no control over. So I think for me and our brewery, what we really try to do is make sure that guests coming into our tap room have an incredible experience, so that they're going out and telling people. And then the other thing that we try to do, and we've received some big awards for it, make great beer. So hopefully the customer that has no idea where Bucyrus, Missouri is, and maybe they just picked up that can of beer because they really liked those wildflowers on the front and they thought it was beautiful, that they open that up and they're like, whoa, this is great liquid. What else does Piney River make? So, it's one of those things. I think my husband and I look at other breweries like in St. Louis and we think, wow, if I had the barn in Bucyrus in like St. Charles County, oh my gosh, I would be printing money. But it probably, I also realized the barn in Bucyrus, Missouri is a destination. So I don't know if in St. Charles County if it would do what it does, because you can't drink beer and watch cows in St. Charles County. And so, part of it is realizing that while we are in the Ozarks, there's not a huge population base here. But this is a place that people want to retire to. This is a place that people come to vacation. This is a place that people look at and they go, wow, to have a bit of land and do this thing. And so I have to tell that story with every can of beer.
Nice. Thank you. Well, I know I personally buy beer by the label, so.
Right, a lot of people do.
Stand out. They're beautiful. Amy?
Yeah. So we do have a YouTube channel, and that's how we try to get the word out. And we video what things look like at different times, and we tell our stories about the plants that way. We tell our stories about soil health. But another thing that we've done is, having worked for the Soil Conservation Service, we realize that. And I've actually served on the Soil and Water Commission a long time ago. Served on the Soil and Water Commission to spend the sales tax money that the Soil and Water and the state parks spend their own. And you get to see how money is spent. So I have tried to be active, with the diverse native grasslands for the purpose of grazing for soil health. And we need cost share dollars to establish this is what we need. And, so I try to work through those government programs to do that. And what you really find out is what a political world we live in, and it's kind of a sad deal. At the tender age of 35, I was booed out of a soil and water meeting when I was a commissioner. And, and it was because there were two words I didn't know then, and those two words were soil health. And to talk about water infiltration and deep roots and cycling nutrients and all these things that I learned in soils class, my plants were putting it together. So, it's been a journey to come back and to try to help a part of the state that, is very dear to me. And, and just to see all the wildflowers growing on the roadsides and all the native grasses growing on the roadsides, but then folks in government agencies just kind of wanting to keep it woods. And we have, black oak decline, white oak decline, and I do believe that all this is just a slow spiral downhill of our soils. And, it's one of these things that happens so slowly that we really don't see it and understand it. So.
Something that I've learned over time is that I can stand up here and tell you the most creative, phenomenal story about my product, because a lot of you sell products. I can tell you the story and have all the background and graphic design, the website, the YouTube channels, and then if you try my product and you don't like it, you're not going to buy it again. So I think it's really important to have a great story and a great product and put your effort into that, because word of mouth, that's how it happens. You know, you go to one restaurant like, oh, I saw your name on the menu, where can I get it? And all of a sudden they come to the store, you know, I had no idea that you would try their product. I love that. Like that is phenomenal, you know, but it's like, if it didn't taste good, even though I stood up here and told a story that was true, if it didn't taste good, she wouldn't be recommending it, and all of you won't be coming to the farmer's daughter to buy some. You know, so those relationships are really important. In customer service side, you know, I will always give it to the customer. As far as if there's something that I did that I am so sorry, I will make sure that it's right, and I think that's really important to have those relationships with, you know, your vendors, your processors, you know, producers that we work with, our customers. That's what keeps people coming back, to get it out of just your farm and establishing those relationships and curating those.
Nice, thank you. Excellent, so you heard it from them, not just from your mentors, those of you who are clients. What did we learn? We need to really hit the social media more than we want to, really focus on the customer experience, and really focus on the quality of the product and the knowledge behind it. And that makes perfect sense. It's the recipe for success, right? Okay, I know we're running short on time. At the risk of paying for this later, I'm going to still give us time for questions from the audience. So who has questions? Don't be shy.
We're just that good, I guess.
I mean, I have lots more questions. If you guys want to sit through that, that's fine. But let's have some questions from the audience. Oh, you are just that good.
Well, there's one. There's one.
Okay.
Excuse me. You're all very innovative women. None of you are shy, and you're very exuberant. So, for someone who might otherwise be a little on the shy side in dealing with salespeople, business setups, do you recommend dealing more with online work, connecting with people through written communications, or just getting out there and just doing it face-to-face and getting used to just speaking with people?
From somebody who's shy, like, I mean, I'm a what is it, introverted extrovert or whatever. You know, it's scary, and this is what I tell my kids. We have an 11-year-old and we have an 8-year-old, and they're growing up to be very dynamic. And my son was very shy whenever he was little, and he'd come up like he'd love to like do this when he was a little baby, you know. And so even when he was 6, 7, 8 years old, he would come up. If there was anything on my shirt, he would do that because he was nervous, and I knew that. And I took him to summer school one time, and it was the school that he was comfortable with, but I was taking him to summer school. He was very uncomfortable, and I told him, I said, my job as a parent or a mentor is to make you just a little bit uncomfortable. Not so much that you fall on your face and ruin everything, but to push yourself out of that comfort zone just a little bit, and it gets easier, and you get more confident. And I was shaking. You couldn't see my hands. I was shaking. So it's not like it ever goes away, but just make yourself a little bit uncomfortable. Maybe it's just a phone call. Maybe it's just an email to open that up, but just push yourself a little bit every time, and it will get easier.
Yeah, and I think just that passion to serve, you know, show your passion to serve your customer. That's what it's about. And when you love what you're doing, and I can tell you liked what you were doing, you know, let that come out. And I think that's hard to do when you write. You know, it's easier to do when you tell your story.
Yeah, I can tell you it's a lot easier for me to walk into a bar or restaurant and say, I have this product, and this is who I am, and here's my story. And for them to say no to me, to my face, than it is on, you know, if I shoot them an email or whatever. You know, making those connections face to face is what sells.
What a great question. Any others? Jill?
I just want to say thank you to Amy for all you're doing, especially with the native grass seeds, because it's been 40 years since I was here. I moved away and came back, but I grew up running through the fields here and running through the forest and everything that was here. And I bought a piece of property that I used to play on, and the invasive species are blowing my mind. And so I'm practicing by getting more grass seeds that are native grass seeds and trying to go after along with plucking all the poison oak that I can find?
Well, I would like to say, I didn't bring this up in my talk, but being a plant nerd, I look at things different. And being a soil health person, I see that invasive species are the reason that we have them is because of the oversimplification of our agriculture. Like the Sericea lespedeza, it's a warm season non-native legume, and it fixes nitrogen for fescue. Fescue loves nitrogen, and the tannins, the secondary plant compounds, the condensed tannins are holding on to the potassium so that it can cycle to the next plant. So this idea that fescue and fertilizer could fix things, well, if you keep it fertilized, but we can't afford to fertilize. I can understand the same thing, what honeysuckle is doing in our woods. It's cycling potassium again. So, you just begin to see that if we don't fix our problems, where we're headed, is not a good thing. And it all happens because energy, to make fertilizer is expensive, so.
Out of curiosity, since you may know, is the red honeysuckle, is it native to here or is it also invasive?
No, there is a native red honeysuckle, and it is blooming right now, and there's kind of a yellow-orange one as well.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, go ahead.
I'll stand up. First off, I do want to say I also appreciate Brooke coming into
Oh,
existence.
thank you.
One
I'll tell her.
one of the very first things, before I got to the bar at Piney River, one of the very first things I saw at Piney as I walked in the main entrance there was her framed, some of her framed artwork and her explanation as to how she liked to go about innovating new designs and things to kind of match the beer or best represent the Ozarks, and that was just a real treat, something I wasn't expecting to read. So I just want to put that out there. I think a common theme today is I've heard is a lot of people talking about pivoting and recognizing when to pivot. As an owner of a small business, and we're relatively young, thankfully we haven't been forced into a pivot yet, but I'd really love to hear when, obviously some of your stories that your pivot was more abrupt and you knew you had to make the change. My personal fear is that sometimes I might find myself in a situation where I'm not sure if I need to pivot or if I just need to stay the course. And I'm curious how, with your experiences and what kind of advice you would give a younger business to look for those bellwethers of like, do I need to make a change or do I need to stay the course? If that question makes sense.
That's a great question.
So when do you pivot? How do you know?
Well, yeah, I'm trying to pivot the government. Because I have seen the injustice of how we spend our money. I've watched how they spend their money. And, and in Texas County, the county I'm from, just north of here, we actually have more agricultural expenses in the county than agricultural income on the F1, on the farm, on the tax form that you fill out. So, this here is, if you're going to feed cows in a feedlot and you're going to pay farmers to grow corn and soybeans and subsidize it when it doesn't work, it's just really hard to compete and take care of the land. And so I'm kind of passionate about that, and I try to pivot the government, but I'm trying to go into the fescue belt, which is from Missouri to the south and the east, and trying to open up that market, with our videos that we do. Because fescue it's got a pretty big adaptation area, and so change. I just if you're gonna change things, there's some things that changing for grasslands has put my business at an unfavorable disadvantage because I'm better at raising wildflower seeds than I am native grasses. So. It's kind of scary, but when you believe in what you do, I think that you need to do the right thing. So,
Kristen, Jolene, you both mentioned big pivots as well. Any advice?
Well, I think my husband and I at this point we say regularly to each other, you know, well, we just got to get out of this thing alive. And that sounds really dire, but it's kind of true. But then, you know, you're also like, oh my gosh, I borrowed so much money, and you know, and I see a light at the end of the tunnel, but I'm like, is it a train? Is it sunlight? I'm hoping for sunlight. But you know, you do have things that come up. COVID, crazy. I mean, you know, nobody could have told us that was coming. So scary having that shutdown time. But then it turned into our distribution partners were like, we need all the cans of beer that we can get because people are drinking heavily and they're buying it all at the package stores. Bars and restaurants were closed. And then our tap room, of course in Texas County, you know, things began to open back up, and the Ozarks were a place where people were coming to, you know, play, be outdoors, and our tap room was just crazy. Craft beer is currently facing headwinds. I had a friend in the industry tell me last weekend that, you know, oh, the distributors, they say craft beer is dying. And I'm like, yeah, okay, whatever. I'm not dead. And the tap room at the brewery this year is up over 20%. So, you know, what does that mean? Well, a couple things. Last year was a rough year for us because we saw our distribution numbers go down, and it had to do with a certain beer was introduced in the state, and it hurt everyone. And it happened in Missouri, and it happened in Oklahoma, and the shiny bright object will wear off. But, you know, people like to try different things. And, you know, as a craft brewer, I make a lot of different things. But I'm also at the mercy of these distributors, and I can't control everything that they do. So, you know, this year, one of the things that we made a decision to do was like no advertising, because we've actually spent money on advertising in, you know, magazines that are distributed throughout the state to draw people into our tap room. And my big expense for this year, instead of advertising, was an additional air conditioner unit for my barn because it gets too hot in the summer. So, you know, it's just those kinds of things. You constantly have to be investing in yourselves, but keep your finger on the pulse of what is happening out there with your industry. And also, you know, you've got to know your own risk tolerance, and you know, be talking to your banker when needed, and you know, just there's a lot of it. If you're an entrepreneur, you're willing to. I think the first speaker said it. You know, you're going to work the hardest. You're going to you know, bleed it, and you know, Brian and I, we said two things a lot early on. It was never let anyone outwork us, and we can sleep when we die. And you know, that pretty much continues on, and but you have to find ways to feed yourself along the way, you know, emotionally as well as just taking care of yourself financially.
I think a big part for me, like a little small pivot, sometimes it's big like COVID, but keeping your eyes wide open, like don't be so laser focused on this one thing that you're going after, that's all you put it into, because you're gonna miss all these other opportunities. So whenever you're having conversations with people, I might say, well, I'm only going to carry meat products in my store, and that's all I want to do. Well, then I'm going to miss out on all these other things, and I have all these relationships that I've built and developed over time. So if I only say I'm doing this, you're going to miss out on all of those. And so I think maybe not like, oh, I'm going to switch and only sell. I knew a guy once who had an orchid flower store in Fargo, North Dakota. That's all he sold. It didn't work because he wasn't saying, hey, this is my customer base that I need to work with. So I think just being ready to do that. And I also say, listen to all the advice. You don't have to take it, but listen to everything, because you might get one piece of information that could totally change how you think and how you approach situations. Instead of just being like, I'm an expert, I know what I'm doing, and being stubborn. You have to be stubborn to stay with it and stay the course, but don't be so closed off and stubborn that you don't take it, you know, advantage of what somebody's suggestion might be. Just say, please, thank you, and you know, you can ignore it, that's your choice. But I think that's really important too.
Well, I appreciate you guys taking my kind of stray word question, and I think what I got from it was, you know, a lot of lessons that you
On that note, we will close the roundtable. I know that we probably have more questions, but I also see the pitch contestants giving me dirty looks because we're eager to find out who won. So I'm going to close that. But let me ask you this: will you three be around for the networking event at the end?
Absolutely. I saw some Piney River.
Yes, and I should say there is beer and there is a non-alcoholic root beer if you're not a beer drinker. There are several styles of beer, but our son, who grew up in a brewery, he's 18 now, so he wanted to brew beer though as a very small kid, and we let him start making root beer, and he won a pitch contest at MU's like School of Business summer camp, pitching, putting root beer into cans, and he came in the second runner-up behind an 18-year-old. Yeah, as a 12-year-old. So but we put the beer in cans, or the root beer in cans. So there's some out there. So
Stick around for the networking event. You'll get to ask more questions and try all the amazing beers and root beer from Piney River. Thank you, ladies, so much.
All right, we've got the pitch winner.
So the moment is here.
All right.
So I'd like everyone to give our pitch winners a big round of applause. We really appreciate it, and I'm going to go ahead and start with our 4th place winner. And our 4th place winner will get a nice certificate and $125 to further their business idea. And that goes to Donna Harper.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you for presenting.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Got it.
Thank you. All right. And our 3rd place winner, taking home $250, is Manda Barnes Cooper. Please, come on.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Well done. Congratulations. Yay.
Thank you.
All right. 2nd place. And I do have to say, before I go any further, the scores were very tight. So everybody did a really, really great job in their presentations, and we are excited to be working with you. So 2nd place goes to Jill Sloan. You're welcome. Thank you. All right. 1st place goes to, and the winner of $1,000 goes to Andrew Bradley. Very good. Congratulations.
Thank you.
All right. Yep. So now we're going to get down to the People's Choice, where all of you participated. And I do also get the pleasure of announcing that this is a first time. So the winner of our People's Choice Award goes to Andrew Bradley.
Never been done. You said you were going to do it.
Yeah.
Well done.
Well, from our team at OzSBI, Isla, Autumn, our board members, John, I think you're the only one, mentors, Joanna and Madison up front, and our many volunteers, thank you all for joining us for EPIC. Hope you stick around for the networking. Enjoy we've got some wonderful appetizers out there, but meet somebody new, further your business, and make a connection that can move you forward. You're part of what's making our community strong, and we just have the greatest pleasure having you here today at OzSBI. So thank you so much.